sick.
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
We won't be out long.
Take your time. Track's all yours.
You ready? The name on the middle of that steering wheel should tell you that I was born ready. Hit it. Attaboy.
Let me drive. I won't make a fool out of you.
I got a message for all of them. Shake and bake.
What does that do? Does that blow your mind?
That just happened.
These cars, you sit in a box, a coffin, gasoline all around you. It is like being inside a bomb.
It's tough enough being a girl on the track. Living in my dad's shadow doesn't help much.
You have to be kind to the car. You feel the poor thing groaning underneath you.
No race was ever won in the first corner.
I'm gonna give you an engine low to the ground, extra big oil pan that'll cut the wind from underneath you. That'll give you 30 to 40 more horsepower.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
Brakes are warm. Tires are warm.
I'll work in the cars and I'll drive and I'll eat and sleep and I'll work in the cars and I'll drive.
Damn fast, and when you run so close together, it requires fantastic concentration and rather special skills.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
If you're going to push a piece of machinery to the limit and expect it to hold together, you have to have some sense of where that limit is.
Besides, the best drivers don't dwell on the future or the past. The best drivers focus only on the present.
They could never have imagined it. Those pioneers who invented the automobile, that it would possess us like this in our imaginations, our dreams.
I'm gonna give you a fuel line that will hold an extra gallon of gas. I'm gonna shave half an inch off you and shape you like a bullet.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
Racing is in my blood.
I was put on this earth to race cars.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die, and I can live with it, but not 1% more.
No, Nicky, don't bring the percentages into this. Don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this.
And when we get you primed, painted, and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me? You're gonna be perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last. There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darrell Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
I mean, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? I mean, come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were, but trust me, watching you win those races while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. You sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
You gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Well, we can drive. We can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes, every gear change, every corner, perfect. You see it.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it?
what we do. It's passion, love, which is why we are prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem is?
That you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never going to get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my own. Please let me race.
Fine. Then let's race.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and once again, welcome to the Grand Prix World Series. This time, we are racing in Kyalami, South Africa for round 5, and this promises to be another thrilling event for you here today. Looking ahead to League 2 to start off with, Brendan Hartley enters this round at the top of the standings on 51 points ahead of Tatiana Calderon, Marcus Ericsson and Kimi Sato, the top 4 there, all having won one race each so far this season. We've yet to see a repeat winner across both leagues in the Grand Prix World Series so far this season. Could we potentially have our 5th different race winner today? It'll be exciting to find out whether any of the top 4, Hartley, Calderon, Ericsson or Kimi Sato, can do it. But we have the likes of Jack Aitken, Lucas Di Grassi and Andre Lotterer who will be looking to make it 5 from 5 in League 2. It is still quite close across the top fighters in the championship. Brendan Hartley on 51, 8 ahead of Tatiana Calderon on 43, Ericsson's on 41 ahead of Sato on 39. Jack Aitken, less than a race win away from Brendan Hartley at the moment, so a strong result here today could see him spring right into contention for the championship this season. Lucas Di Grassi's there on 30, 4 ahead of Andre Lotterer in the Andrea Moda on 26. Takuma Sato on 24 in 8th ahead of Alexander Rossi and Jaime Alguersuari in the top 10 after his strong start to the season in the Scuderia Coloni. Looking at the team's standings, Dome are leading the way still. They are on 63 points, 4 ahead of Pacific Grand Prix, who are a further 6 ahead of Mastercard Lola and 2 ahead of Fond Metal. They're in 4th place. Force India, 5th on 42 ahead of Zach Speed on 38. 1 ahead of Andrea Moda with 37. Scuderia Coloni makes it 3 Italian teams in the top 8 on 24 points. LaRousse on 21 and Ram Racing, having picked up their first points of the season last time out in Fuji, now on 13 points. And we do have a few driver changes just to make note of before we get proceedings underway here today. The first of which comes at one of the championship contenders, Mastercard Lola, Susie Wolf, has been reduced down to the reserve role and Mick Schumacher has been brought into her place. A lot of eyes will be on Mick to see how he will fare in his Grand Prix World Series debut today, and I will certainly be keeping a keen eye on how the son of the 7-time world champion gets on. Next up is Zach Speed, where Oliver Rowland has been given a chance to make his return to the Grand Prix World Series in place of Sam Bird, who Mike Smith is resting for this race at least. Oliver Rowland did 1 race for Super Aguri at the end of last season and came home in a very creditable 4th place. So can he improve on that, or will he prove to be a bit of a flop here today? We will soon enough find it out. Scuderia Coloni, Christian Lundgaard returns from his race ban and he will be in place of Marcus Armstrong, Jaime Alguersuari, keeping his seat for now at the Italian team. Dan Ticktum also being given another chance of Real in place full of Turvey. Ed Hunter wanting to evaluate him further in that race seat before making a final decision as to who will see out the season. And the final one for League 2, Gary Pavitt will keep his seat for the rest of the season. He came in place of the banned Sebastian Loeb after the Frenchman picked up a 1-race ban. And Pavitt, taking pole position at his first time out in Fuji, has done enough to impress Ross McGregor to the point where he's decided to give him a seat for the rest of the season. So Paffett now with a chance to make the most of that and bring Ram even more points as we look towards the second half of the season. Now, before we get underway, we of course have to take you through the grid, and it is Pascal Wehrlein who has put the Fonmetal onto pole position ahead of Gary Paffett. Paffett once again doing a stellar job in qualifying to put onto the front row for the second time in a row, his second time out in the Grand Prix World Series, P2 for the Englishman. Marcus Ericsson makes it 2 Fonmetals in the top 3 ahead of our debutant Mick Schumacher, a highly impressive 4th place for the German, making the most of the raw horsepower that the Mastercard Lola has, and he will line up on the second row alongside one of our championship contenders. Oliver Rowland on his return will be 5th ahead of Jack Aitken in the Force India. Kimi Sato, our latest race winner from Fuji, he lines up 7th ahead of Mike Conway in the Real. That's one of Real's best qualifying performances of the season so far. And Jake Dennis and Tatiana Calderon will make up row 5 in 9th and 10th. A bit of a way back from Wehrlein's benchmark though, 7/10 away. They'll want to try and improve on that next time out when we go to Istanbul Park. In 11th place, Luciano Becchetta in the Carlin ahead of Christian Lundgaard, returning from his one race ban in the Colony. Teo Porcher putting in a fine performance for Dams Vaillant in 13th, ahead of our championship leader Brendan Harley. He has a lot of work to do here today. Alan McNish will be 15th in the second round ahead of Alexander Rossi in the Larousse. Jerome D'Ambrosio, Force India, 17th, ahead of Sergio Sette Camara, Takuma Sato and Fabio Lima. That completes the top 20. And lining up near the back, Jaime Alguersuari. He burst onto the scene in Yongamba, since struggled a bit more for pace, and he'll be 21st on the grid here today, ahead of Callum Ilott in the Larousse. And then on the back 2 rows, Andre Lotterer, Lucas Di Grassi, Dan Ticktum and Valentino Rossi. Once again, qualifying last in the Dams Vaillant, so I wonder how much more patience Jake Sanson is going to have with him. But we now have one thing to do for League 2, and that is race. So we head down to the commentary box where Tom Cairns is ready to take you through the action.
So Fonmetal on pole again, but this time it is Pascal Wehrlein at the wheel in pole position. Can Gary Paffett continue to make an impression by getting off the line well from P2? We're right for the red lights to come on. Lights out and away we go in Kyalami. Pascal Wehrlein gets off to a reasonable start, but not as good as Paffett, who's going in front of him by turn 1. So Paffett leads ahead of the Fonmetals of Pascal Wehrlein and Marcus Ericsson. So the Ram Racing car making a very, very good start at the head of the field. Paffett leads, Wehrlein is second, Ericsson is third, and it's Mick Schumacher making his Grand Prix World Series debut up there in 4th place. And it's Oliver Rowland in the Sack Speed in 5th, Kimi Sato, Jack Aitken, Mike Conway, Jake Dennis and Tatiana Calderon running out the top 10 at the moment. There's Gary Paffett continuing on there, making a very good start indeed, as the Fonmetals looking to keep up with him. 54 laps it is around this Kyalami circuit, as they continue to make their way through the bends of this historical Kyalami circuit that has undergone a number of changes over the decades. This is the current layout that they use still at the moment. And Paffett is making the most of the opportunity to keep himself in front of the black and red cars behind, and of course all the others. And he's coming around to complete the first lap in the race lead. Wehrlein in 2nd place, and then it's Ericsson 3rd. Mick Schumacher, who is in the Mastercard Lola in place of Susie Wolf, is in 4th position, making a very good start to his new career in this series, given that he's not currently a full-time Formula 1 driver. You cannot be a full-time Formula 1 driver and then be eligible for the Grand Prix World Series. It's not how it works, as Mike Conway looks to get past Jack Aitken for P7. And then we see Tatiana Calderon, who has won a race already this season in Yongam, looking for another good result. She's scored points in every race so far this season, has the Colombian. Was able to just sneak into the points. That's because of Lucas Di Grassi's time penalty for a collision that he was involved in that dropped him down the order. So Paffett continues on, and that is Sette Camara locking up into the left-hander. And we're going to get a replay to see how that had happened. And I think he just gone in a little bit too late. You had Jerome D'Ambrosio alongside, who got through before the corner, and Sets the camera nearly cracking under pressure there, but keeping his car on the circuit. So he continues on his way. And he's running in 18th position, just in front of Fabio Lima. And so we're coming towards the end of the second lap. There is Brendan Hartley, who performs a magnificent back of the grid drive on this track last season. And at the moment he's in P14. He's a race winner as well in Sepang. And he's trying to get more points as Pacific are looking to rebound after a disappointing showing in Fuji a couple of weeks back. And we see a problem there. It looks like the Pacific. Is that Brendan Hartley in trouble? Is that Sergio Sette Camera? I think that's Sette Camera because Brendan Hartley is further up. And so Pacific's day is already taking a turn for the worse. Sergio Sette Camera is out for the third time this season. And it's an engine problem this time for the Brazilian. The man from Belo Horizonte isn't going any further in this. So we are seeing Marcus Ericsson, who has already won in the Grand Prix World Series. That came in Zensal. He also bagged a pole position in Malaysia. He retired early on in the race. So Gary Puffett is continuing on further forward. And we're seeing Kamir Sato trying to make a move on Oliver Rowland for 5th position. Kamir Sato, who goes into this round with a bag full of confidence after an emotional first win for himself and for the Dome team, and doing so on home turf. And now we are seeing Sato going for the move up the inside of Oliver Rowland, and that is a change for position, I think, or has Rowland held him off? He's actually held him off as Rowland, so Kamir Sato having to bail out of it in the end. It almost looked like he got the move done into the left-hander that they're going through there, but no, Rowland actually shut the door last minute and just about leaving enough room on the inside. So coming out of what's called the Lukop hairpin. Both cars able to keep going. Now coming out of the last turn. That is Inqui. And coming down the pit straight through the kink. And shortly they'll be heading through Crowthorne. The Juk Sky sweep. And then the left-hander of Barbecue. And Puffett. Beginning. While continuing Ram's recovery after a difficult start to the campaign. They're making up for it here. So Puffett in the race lead. His teammate Alan McNish is outside the top 15 at the moment. As we look at Luciano Becchetta trying to get through on Christian Lundgaard, who is back after a one-race ban following his shenanigans with Mike Conway in Zensal. And we are seeing a potential change for the lead here as Pascal Wehrlein gets up the inside of Gary Puffett and he takes the lead of the Kyalami Grand Prix. And here is a replay of the move. Gary Puffett didn't get the best of lines coming out of the S's. Wehrlein was able to get up the inside and Wehrlein gets back the lead again. So Puffett down to second place. Ericsson is third. With Mick Schumacher, Oliver Rowland still behind. The top four nose to tail. And they are coming towards the end of that. They've just come out of what is known as the crocodile section. We are seeing the LaRousse of Callum Ilott, who isn't having the best of starts to his race. He didn't qualify that well, in all honesty, did Callum Ilott. Looking at where he had started, he had qualified 22nd. So he's actually made up a few positions already as Callum Ilott, but it's not major. Andre Lotterer, who had a difficult time in qualifying, only ended up in 23rd. He's actually, I think he's running in 24th position. He's not had the best of starts to this race by the looks of it. There's a long way to go yet in this race as Takuma Sato looks to try and overtake Ilott. That's over where Clubhouse is at. And we are seeing Jake Dennis in the Andrea Moda in 9th position, just ahead of Tatiana Calderon. Making the way through Lou Kopp. And Jake Dennis, who's looking to get the team's first ever victory in the Grand Prix World Series. He's already picked up a pole position this season as the young Brit who is the reigning Formula E champion. But he hasn't taken a pole position yet. But what I will say is that there is an engine problem for one of the Kyalonis. And I think that looks like, is that Christian Lundgaard? It is. And he's almost becoming a smoke screen to the drivers. They're having to scatter their way past the alien Kyalami. So Christian Lundgaard's race only lasting 6 laps. And he nearly takes out the dome of Takuma Sato. So Christian Lundgaard's driving standards may be called into question. Sato gets through, as does his teammate Jaime Alguersuari. Lundgaard will be pulling onto the grass very shortly here. And he's got the exact speed of Lucas Di Grassi, of which he's holding up there. How long will it be before he decides to pull the car off the circuit? Yeah, his car has lost all the hydraulics, has lost all the fluid, and he is going to be pulling off the track any moment now. And Lundgaard retires from the race yet again. And there's confirmation of the diagnosis to the Kyalami. That's 2 cars out of the race now. We see Gary Paffett and Marcus Ericsson fighting over second place as they come towards the fast sweeping right-hander of Sunset. And it's the left-hander of Clubhouse that they are approaching as Mike Conway thinks about a move on Jet Aiken. Can't quite make the move stick at the present moment. He can't get through. So he waits behind. Ericsson in P3. Behind Ericsson is Mick Schumacher. And Kamir Sato is in front of Oliver Rowland now in 5th place. Von Mattel having a good race so far. As we see the other Ram of Alan McNish, who's running in 15th place. He's just holding up what looks like Jerome D'Ambrosio in the Force India. Now, there are 16 rounds in the Grand Prix World Series this season. We've been to Sepang, Yongam, Sentul, Fuji, and where we are currently racing at, which is Kyalami. After this one, we go to Istanbul, followed by a string of new venues for the Grand Prix World Series this season. We begin at Misano in Italy, Dijon-Bourgogne in France, which is a track that is designed by the Leighton House team boss, Chris Cavaney. After we go to Brands Hatch as Fabio Lima spins off into the gravel. And that looks like he's gone off at Barbecue Bend. And did he catch the grass? He caught the curb as he approached the barbecue corner. And so he's in the gravel trap. And he's almost stuck there, is Lima. Can he get out of there, or is that it for his race? Well, whilst we are waiting to see him back on the circuit, we go to Brands Hatch for round 9, then to Hockenheim, and then it's Panonia in Hungary, which is another of the new venues, the Valencia Street Circuit in Spain, Buenos Aires, Argentina, and a couple of other new venues in Curitiba, Brazil. And Fabio Lima, for reversing back onto the circuit, has been given a suspended back of the grid penalty. So if he does that again, then a back of the grid penalty will be coming his way. So the 14th round will be Curitiba in Brazil. San Carlos in Venezuela will be the venue for the penultimate round of the championship. And the 16th and final round will be at Laguna Seca in California. And that's the problem for Kamir Sato. The race winner of Fuji has pulled off, and he is gone from this race in Kyalami. What a shame for him. And it's a gearbox issue for the Japanese man, I should say. But he is gone from this race. And so that makes it 3 retirements, I think, in this race now. Tsukima Sato. And Degrassi goes off in the sack speed. Has he damaged the car? Or has he got a problem there? He's gone in too deep into Sunset. Has he damaged the front wing there? It doesn't look he has. That's going to take a bit of time for him to get back onto the circuit, given how far into the gravel trap he is there. Now, the Brazilian's not had the best start to his race. Neither has Fabio Lima, who's a bit further behind. And he's just stopped there to allow Lima to go through. Degrassi back out on circuit, and he's damaged his front wing as he's bouncing over the gravel. He's back on the circuit now in 23rd place, and he'll need to come back in for a new front wing. It's not a good race by his standards. As we see Marcus Ericsson thinking about a move whilst we watch Théo Pourchaire in the Dams Vaillant. Through barbecues in P11 is the Frenchman. Formula 2 champion-elect. After another convincing performance, he's had a consistent season, has Pourchaire, in Formula 2. And he's firm favourite to be clinching the championship in Abu Dhabi in a couple of months' time. And now we are seeing a move from Pourchaire up the inside, what looks like Luciano Piquetta, and that's a clean overtake from Pourchaire. Into the points he goes, and Degrassi will go down a lap as he comes into the pits for a new nose cone. Verline comes up to lap him then. And you see Valentino Rossi, who's languishing at the back, coming into Lou Kopp. He goes in a little too deep, does he? Yeah, it was a little lock up, nothing major, but he carries on his way. And we are seeing Marcus Ericsson trying to get close enough to make a move stick on what looks like Gary Paffett. Can't do it into Sunset, so he waits back. Stays behind for now. Mitch Schumacher's a couple of seconds adrift of these two. And behind Schumacher, it's Oliver Rowland, who's back up to 5th place now after Kamir Sato's retirement. 6 seconds behind the German. Mike Conway, as we look in the picture, he's running in P7, but not for long, because there is the Andrea Moda of Jake Dennis trying to make a move, but Conway's able to fend him off this time around. And ahead of Aiken, that's the sack speed of Lucas Degrassi, who's just come out of the pits ahead of them. So that won't really please Jack Aiken that much. And there's Verline continuing on in the race lead. Paffett 2nd, Ericsson 3rd, Schumacher 4th, Rowland 5th, Aiken 6th, Conway in the Real in 7th position as Jake Dennis comes into the pits, and that'll be for a scheduled tyre change and fuel, of course. So Jake Dennis, I would imagine, will be on the 2 stops. And it's worth mentioning that some of the drivers will be doing the 2 stops, others will be doing the 1, as Paffett once again holding off Marcus Ericsson. Jaime Alguersuari coming into the pits in the sole surviving Kyalami. Not sure what Kyalami are going to do to get anything out of this race. As Jerome D'Ambrosio thinks about a move on Alamet Ness. He can't make the move stick. He nearly ran wide and nearly went off into the gravel trap. Fabio Lima also coming into the pits for a scheduled tyre and fuel change. And we have seen a replay. That'll be D'Ambrosio going in too deep into Sunset. Now he's under threat from the LaRousse of Kyalami. Now, are we going to be seeing an overtake from the Brit here as he goes, or thinks about a move on Jerome D'Ambrosio? Doesn't go for it into Lucott. And Paffett pits from second place. That allows Marcus Ericsson to go up into P2. Important pit stop this for Gary Paffett. The DTM ace. The former DTM ace coming in. Porsche also pitting in after being in the top 10. That will allow Brendan Hartley to go up a position. So Paffett rejoins behind Alan McNish in 12th position now. As we watch Jet Aiken lock up in front of Mike Conway. Conway is having a better race than expected there in the Real, who have been off the pace so far this season, not making up that much ground in comparison to the others, in all honesty. There's your race leader, Pascal Wehrlein, who's yet to... Oh, that's Brendan Hartley off the track! And he gets back on, thankfully not into the path of the other drivers. Now we're getting a replay of the Pacific driver, who's having another tough afternoon so far. Running in 9th position on track. And goes off the circuit, and I'd imagine that he's going to hand the position over to Alexander Rossi. And behind Hartley are the two Rams of McNish and Paffett. And we are seeing Pascal Wehrlein, the race leader, come in. Now that'll be to cover off Gary Paffett, who came in the lap before. At the end of lap 14, he's in. Ericsson remains out there. And we've got a couple more drivers coming in. Jerome D'Ambrosio and Takuma Sato are both in the pit lane. And we are seeing a battle going on further back. This is between what looks like Kyalami and Jaime Alguersuari. This is like for 20th position or something like that. It's outside the top 15 anyway. And we can see Mick Schumacher, who's moved up to second now, thanks to the pit stops. Making a good first impression so far. Could it get better from here? As Jake Dennis, who's just pitted, tries to make a move up the inside of the Real of Dan Tickton. The move not quite coming off, and Paffett, who's stuck behind McNish, needs to get in front of him. The bad news for him is that Wehrlein got back out in front of him, but McNish is not doing his Ram teammate any favours here. And Marcus Ericsson comes in from the race lead now. So is he doing enough to get ahead of Gary Paffett? He won't get out in front of Wehrlein. And you're seeing Sato, who's fending off the LaRousse of Kyalami and the Coloni of Jaime Alguersuari. I think it's going to come down to survival of the fittest, really, because we're not seeing a lot of overtaking around this circuit. And strategy, of course, is going to play its part as well. I can tell you that Ericsson has rejoined behind his teammate, but is now in front of Gary Paffett. So Gary Paffett is down a position, a net position. So once the pit stops are done, or at least the first round of pit stops, Von Mattel should have two cars in the top two places. Now we're seeing the Dans Vaillant cars go toe-to-toe. Valentino Rossi, 7 times MotoGP champion, in front of the youngster Théo Pourchaire, who's destined for huge things in the future within motorsport, whether that be in Formula 1 or IndyCar or wherever it may be. He is part of the Sauber Driver Academy after all, and pushing for a place on that Formula 1 grid in the near future. Conway pits from 4th position in the Real. It might be 3rd actually, because I think it was 4th, because he was behind Aiken before he came in. Mick Schumacher was in the race lead then on the road. Oliver Rowland in 2nd place in the Sax Speed. Jack Aiken 3rd in the Force India. Tatiana Calderon 4th in the Mastercard Lola. Luciano Becchetta is 5th in the Carlin. Then it's Pascal Wehrlein, Marcus Ericsson, Alexander Rossi, who's yet to pit, Brendan Hartley, who's yet to pit, and Alan McNish, who's yet to pit. Gary Paffett is running in P11, but he's getting stuck behind his teammate for a number of laps now. It's not quite playing into his hands. We've got two Dan's Violent cars tussling towards the back. Mick Schumacher continuing on his way. He's got no cars to worry about in front as Andre Lotterer is under attack from his teammate Jake Dennis, who's already pitted. Lotterer hasn't yet. Roland pits from P2. He should get out. Most likely, is he going to rejoin in the top 10? He'll rejoin behind Paffett, so probably not in the top 10. He might get out in front of Mike Conway, I would have thought. And he, as we watched Takuma Sato locking up into the Crocodile, he was able to carry on his way. So Roland rejoined behind Paffett in 11th position. It won't be too long before he catches up to him. For your information, Marcus Ericsson holds the fastest lap. Pole position went to Pascal Verlaine at the moment. So at least Von Mattel have got a point in the bag, but given how their race has started already, they'll want a few more points than that. Certainly a lot more. I will mention that the top 3 teams in League 2 at the end of the season will be promoted to League 1. And the 3 teams occupying the top 3 places in League 2 are Dome, Pacific and MasterCard Lola. Von Mattel go into this race 4th in the standings. But if they get a really strong result out of this, they could well lead the team's championship. That's how much you can really all change, and that's Schumacher off! Mick Schumacher spins into the gravel at Sunset. Really bad error there from the German. And he just simply locked up, carried too much speed, bounced over the gravel trap, and he touched the wall. He should get out of there, but he may have to let some of the field go through before he rejoins safely. And he's having to wait for other cars to get through. This is costing Schumacher dear here. And you can see the Pacific going through there. You'll see the 2 Rams. Conway will go past. Roland goes past. Lotterer, Dennis. And Dan Ticktum, who goes off himself. Ticktum goes off into the gravel trap now. It's almost becoming like a car sale down at that gravel trap at Sunset. Ticktum goes off by himself, carried too much speed. And he also loses time. Schumacher and Ticktum in the gravel trap together at Sunset. They're having to let the field go through. They get back onto the circuit now. And they're towards the back of the pack. What a shame. For both MasterCard Lola and for Riel. And Paffett is in front of McNish now at last. But he's lost so much time being stuck behind him. Paffett gets through then. The next man ahead of him is Brendan Hartley in the Pacific. Coming on to the pit straight then. And the new race leader is Jack Aiken for Force India. Tatiana Calderon is in 2nd place. As Jake Dennis looks to make a move on Andre Lotterer into the kink. Not quite coming off at the end. Jack Aiken continuing on. It looks as though he's going to be doing the 1 stop. As is Tatiana Calderon. Luciano Piquetta, I'd have thought so. Alexander Rossi. Brendan Hartley. Alan McNish also. Force India have yet to win in the Grand Prix World Series. Could today be the day to change that? They're destined to win one at some point. In the hands of Ed Spencer, the team boss. We're seeing Dan Titson, who's down at the back in 21st position. 23 are still running at the moment. Lucas Di Grassi, who is down a lap, is in 23rd place. Fabio Lima, who's still on the lead lap, in 22nd. And Dan Titson is running in 21st place. He was just in your picture a second ago. Alan McNish running in P9 on track. Behind him is Mike Conway. Behind Novaswari, who is stuck behind. It looks like Kyalami up there. And now they're coming through. Sequence of corners on this first part of this Kyalami Grand Prix circuit. Last hosted the Formula 1 race in 1993. The last couple of years it's been trying to get a play, and that's a problem there for Jet Aiken! The Force India is out! The car is on fire, and Jet Aiken's spirited race has gone up in smoke, quite literally. And Tatiana Connor running into the back, and having to get out of it there. Jet Aiken, rotten luck there for the Brit. He deserves so much more. His race has ended in retirement, and Ed Spencer will have his head in his hands. Verline going through turn 1 there. Marcus Ericsson, who's stuck behind Luciano Becchetta. And now we have another new race leader. That is Tatiana Calderon in the MasterCard Lola. She's on the one-stop strategy. As Marcus Ericsson continues to try and make a move on Becchetta, but this circuit is difficult to overtake on. Conway running in 9th. Cannot get through on the ramp of Alan McNish. And now we are back with Becchetta, who's got Ericsson right behind him. Ericsson not going for the move just yet. And there's an engine problem. Is that Verline? I think that's Verline. It is! Unbelievable! Pascal Verline's engine has gone up in smoke just like Jet Aiken's did a lap ago. The German is out of the Kyalami Grand Prix. I do not believe it. Just as when it was looking good for the Fonmetal team, for team boss Ewan Gale, has all transpired quite dramatically. Verline is gone. That first victory for him will have to wait a little bit longer. Thankfully, he stays out of the way of the pack. Not a good sight. It's good news for Tatiana Calderon because that's one less threat for her. And it's certainly good news for Marcus Ericsson. Well, maybe not so as much for him, but it's certainly good news for Gary Paffett because he was fighting with Verline at the beginning of this one. Verline's race is over. No points for him. He actually got the point for pole position, so I actually take my word back. But that is as good as it's going to get for him here. Verline is gone from this race. That's another race, actually, where the pole sitter is retired in lead 2. And Calderon comes in from the race lead now. And is Becchetta taking the lead? He is, you know. So Becchetta is going to lead a race. I think that's the second time this season he's actually leading a race. I think he led for a bit in Sensul, albeit not for very, very long. As Alexander Rossi comes in for LaRousse. Behind Becchetta is Marcus Ericsson, who you could say is the favourite to win this race. Ericsson, who's already won in Sensul a couple of rounds ago. Now, should he win this race, Marcus Ericsson will take the lead of the championship. Calderon has rejoined in 10th place now. Whilst Ericsson is still harassing Becchetta for the race lead. Now, Becchetta, I believe, is born under Indian parents, but under Italian ancestry. I think he's actually classed as a Brit as well, believe it or not. So a British driver born under Indian parents, under Italian ancestry. It's not often you hear that nowadays. And Di Grassi, who's in P21, making a lock-up into the last turn of Inqui. And getting away with it. 5 drivers out of the race. Pascal Wehrlein, Jet Aiken, Kamir Sato, Christian Lundgaard, and Sergio Sette Camara. Grassi, who's running in last place, but at least he's still going. He still wants to finish this race and get prize money for Team Boss. And Conway's in the gravel for Real. A good drive, ruined for the Brit. He was chasing Alan McNish. And I think he just positioned the car offline as he entered barbecue. He did. On the curb heavily, spinning the car around, and into the gravel trap he goes. What a shame. And we ride on board with Roland as we watch the incident happen right in front of his eyes. And yeah, needing to worry. He lifted off the throttle a little bit just to make sure he got through safely, which he did. But Conway's race has taken a turn for the worse. Titsum found himself in the gravel trap earlier on as Mick Schumacher comes in for his only stop. And Conway's just waiting for the traffic to go through before he rejoins. And look at all those cars he's going to have to repass. Down to 17th place he goes. He's ahead of his teammate Dan Titsum. Mick Schumacher rejoins in 20th place behind Fabio Lima. So all of the drama that's happened over the last 5 laps or so has seen Brendan Hartley move up to 3rd place as Piquetta comes in from the race lead now as Ericsson takes over ahead of the pack. Brendan Hartley trying to fend off Gary Puffett, who's in 3rd place now on track, but will want to get in front of Brendan Hartley very, very quickly here. They won't do it into right-hander towards barbecue. Lottery comes in. Nearly halfway through this race in lead 2. Ericsson leads then by over 8 seconds ahead of Brendan Hartley, and it's Gary Puffett in 3rd place as we watch Takuma Sato go for a move on Valentino Rossi, and that move unfortunately backfiring the Japanese as Gary Puffett running in P3. Now Puffett looking to make amends and get through on the Kiwi for 2nd place. Brendan Hartley has already won races in his Grand Prix World Series career. He won 3 in Season 1 for Manor. In Season 2, I don't think he won a single race that campaign. He has won already this season as McNish comes in for his only stop. So Brendan Hartley is on 4 career victories in the Grand Prix World Series. Marcus Ericsson going for his 2nd. Puffett going for his 1st. Luciano Piquetta is running in 8th place now, having a spirited drive so far. I will say that Valentino Rossi and Théo Pourchaire, who haven't stopped yet in this race, are doing well to hold the traffic up and make it easier for themselves, actually. Boosting the team's chances of bagging some points. Their only points coming in the 1st round, where Pourchaire came home in 9th position. But nothing really has gone right for them since, and they could do with a good haul of it here. As Fabio Lima holds up Mick Schumacher in the fight for 19th position. Di Grassi comes in for his 2nd stop, but his 1st one as scheduled. Hartley comes in from 2nd place. The Kiwi is in, and I think he'll get out in front of Takuma Sato. As Mick Schumacher goes for a move on Fabio Lima, but Lima isn't making it easy. Holds him off for now. as they come down the back straight after Lukop. And there is your man in the race lead. That was Marcus Ericsson for a moment, and now we go to the Force India of Jerome D'Ambrosio. All down to him now to salvage something for Ed Spencer's team. And Oliver Rowland having a splendid drive in third place in the Zach Speed. Unlike his teammate who... We just had a problem there for a moment, but it seems to be okay now as far as we're concerned. There's Gary Paffett running in second place. Jerome D'Ambrosio getting past the Saxby. I think that's Lucas Di Grassi that he's just lapping actually. So he gets through, no problem. And there we go back to Marcus Ericsson, who's in the race lead. Looking very, very strong. There's Oliver Rowland in P3 on his own there, but at least he's not had too much to contend with. Could a podium finish on debut come in the way of the Brit, who recently announced his future of his return to Formula E, going back to the Nissan team as far as I know. And it's worth mentioning that next season we could see a number of new faces join the Grand Prix World Series, as the criteria is expected to change in terms of who can join the Grand Prix World Series. And I think anyone who's competing in any form of professional championship, whether it be Formula 1 or not Formula 1 because no full-time drivers from Formula 1 are allowed, but drivers who compete in Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula 4, British Touring Cars, V8 Supercars, IndyCar, Formula Regional even. You know, there's going to be a lot of new faces on that Grand Prix World Series grid, I can imagine. So there's going to be a lot of options open for team managers to decide on who's going to be in the driver. That's Paffy off! And front wing broken on the ram! All thrown away by the Brit. He did exactly the same thing as what Mike Conway had done. Just carried too much speed, gets on the high curb there into barbecue, and Paffett is off from second position. Gets back on the circuit. He'll probably have to wait. Paffett's race is ruined. There's no way he's going to come back from this, because he's got a broken front wing as Ticton comes into the pits. All those cars going past now as well, and Paffett's out. The car's beached and he goes no further. Paffett retires from the Kyalami Grand Prix after running so well yet again. That's another threat taken away from Marcus Ericsson, who, in my opinion, can have just an easy run to the checker flag unless something happens to him. If anything does happen to Marcus Ericsson, then we most certainly have a race on our hands. He's destined to pit in again as Ericsson, so it's not going to be as easy as it may seem at the present moment. Schumacher looks to make a move on Fabio Lima for 16th place, but isn't able to get past. And now we are seeing Rowland once more coming through sector. Well, that's Sunset actually. He's gone through, and this is Clubhouse. He's going through, and we are seeing Porsche lock up, and he had to let Piquetta through there because otherwise the two would have collided. So Piquetta got up the inside going into Sunset, but Porsche just carried too much speed whilst concentrating on Piquetta, and luckily he was able to keep the car on the tarmac. And well worked manoeuvre there from Piquetta, who goes up into 5th place on track now. And we are seeing Rowland in P2. Mick Schumacher, what might have been for him considering all of those that dropped out ahead of him. Gary Paffett joining Pascal Wehrlein, joining Jet Aiken. Any of those could have won today. And I mean any of them. Marcus Ericsson's lead 16 seconds over Oliver Rowland. Now Rowland, who has already stopped. And that's a problem for Mick Schumacher. At the back of the field for so long. And it's pretty much game over for the German on his debut. And he'll be hoping for better luck next time out in Istanbul. What a shame for him. It's been a reasonable effort before he had that mistake in the race. But still positive signs for team boss Marcus Johansson. And that's the third different driver in that particular seat. Whilst Calderon has been in the car all season of hers, Mick Schumacher's become the third different driver in the other seats in the MasterCard Lola. Sebastian Ogier was in there at the beginning of the campaign for the first couple of races. Did reasonably well. Allowed Susie Wolf to step in Zentel and Fuji. And this time around, Mick Schumacher got his go. He didn't make it to the end this time around. Brendan Hartley lapping Lucas Di Grassi. And he goes through. And we just saw Dan Titson come into the pits. And Jake Dennis is in the pits now from third place. Calderon goes up a position. Now, Marcus Ericsson thinking about when he needs to pit. He'll probably do it within the next 2 or 3 laps. If he comes up to any back markers, that's when he needs to duck in. Can't see any back markers ahead of the Swedish driver. Dennis rejoins in 14th place now. And that's Rossi going for a spin and into the gravel trap. A number of drivers have been going off there today. And Rossi is another recipient of that. Here we go on board with the LaRousse. He just locked up, carried too much speed, and instead of spinning, just goes straight on into the barrier at Barbecue. Now, is he going to get out of the gravel trap, or is that curtains for the American driver? He's reversing back onto the circuit. He needs to be very careful doing that, and I would imagine he may be hit with a suspended back of the grid penalty. Yeah, that's exactly what he's got. So if he does that once more, and he's off again this time, and the wheels come off. So there might have been a brake issue there for Rossi. That was a heavy impact. The wheel came off as he bounced through the gravel trap. Rossi's race ends on the spot. Oh yeah, that's a wild one there for Rossi. So he is out. At least he's not going to be a problem to any of the other drivers between now and the checker flag, but that's one less car for Chris Hosey to be focusing on. The other driver in the run-in, Kyalami, is in P9 at the moment. There might be a half chance of a points finish out of this, you never know. Marcus Ericsson not deterred by what he has perhaps witnessed just there. He just needs to keep the car on the circuit, which he just about does, coming out of the S's. Takuma Sato comes into the pits, as is Mike Conway. As we see the Scot, Alan McNish, stuck behind the Coloni of Jaime Alguersuari. And behind McNish is Jake Dennis, who's just pitted. Oliver Rowland running in second place on his own. Now, we've seen a number of drivers take victory on their debut in the Grand Prix World Series. Helio Castroneves did it in Season 2. Kamui Kobayashi won the first ever Grand Prix World Series race on this track in Season 1. That was whilst he was racing for Arrows at the time. Of course, Kobayashi will be racing later for Mana. The League 1 race will be coming up after this one. And that's Valentino Rossi spinning round on the exit of the S's. And Thankfully, he keeps the car going. And he's having to wait for traffic to go through. We'll be seeing another replay of the Italian going off track, spinning around, avoiding the rail that's behind him. That will have been Mike Conway getting through there. I think Dan Sixton will have might have been the race leader going through. As we watch from Mike Conway's angle, yeah, may have seen a little bit of smoke there, but he was able to get through no problem. 18 drivers are still going in this race. Lucas Di Rossi running in 18th position behind Dan Sixton, and Rossi comes back into the race a lap down. However, Marcus Ericsson will be in the pits not too long, as Roland goes a little too deep into the S's but doesn't go off the track. Alguersuari in the pits. He was running in the points a moment ago, but will come back out behind Sato, Lima, but he'll get out in front of Conway in 14th. There's Calderon running in P3 now, having a very promising start to the campaign. Could he get even better for the MasterCard Lola team? Well, it certainly won't be with Mick Schumacher retiring, but with Calderon doing as well as she is doing. Rowling comes in from P2. Lotterer locks up into Lukop, but stays on the circuit. Porsche coming in from 5th place for his first stop. It might be his second one, actually, thinking of it. Jerome D'Ambrosio also coming in the Force India. As it's Calamilo, and Calderon's off at barbecue. Now, has she done the exact same mistake as what Mick Schumacher did? Maybe not the same corner, actually, thinking of it, but she's done the same thing as what Gary Paffett had done, and spinning off by touching that high curb, entering barbecue, and she's going to lose a bundle of time whilst in that gravel trap. And she's got to be careful with traffic coming through. That's disaster for the MasterCard Lola team and for Marcus Johansson. Lima coming into the pits as well. Calderon will be looking to get back on the track. Hopefully she won't spend too long in the gravel trap there. Is she waiting for more cars to go through? I think she is. Sato will go through. Alguersuari will go through. Ilott will go through. Conway will go through. Calderon, from what was 2nd place, is now down to 14th. Hartley up there in 3rd place now, after completing his only stop of the race. He's in 3rd place and looking very good for a podium, a much needed podium for the Kiwi. We see Dan Sixton, who's running in 17th position. Luciano Paqueta up to 2nd place now. Looking very good for his first podium in the Grand Prix World Series. Marcus Ericsson, who's in the race lead, should be coming in probably at the end of this lap. As Lucas Di Grassi locks up, but stays on track. Paqueta, Hartley, Rowland, McNish, Jake Dennis and Londre Lotterer. 2 Andrea Modas in the top 7. And it's Teo Pourchaire in the Dans Vaillant after his pit stop is in 8th place. Jerome D'Ambrosio after his pit stop is in 9th. And Takuma Sato in the Dome in 10th position. Could Dome get a point out of this? As we watch Pourchaire try to make a move on Andre Lotterer. Porsche coming alive in this race. Valentino Rossi, his teammate, is in 15th position. But given the race of attrition we have had so far, who knows what we could get before the end. "17 laps to go. Ericsson's lead is half a minute over everyone else. He's lapped 4 cars at the moment, up to Calderon is running in 14th, who makes a lock up into Crocodile, and there's Ericsson just behind her. And Ericsson, I would think, is going to be coming in at the end. Oh no, he doesn't pit in at the end of this lap. We'll wait and see. Might be next time around. Who knows? But I think Ericsson's doing more than enough here to keep hold of the race lead. Brendan Hartley will be doing his best to keep his car on the circuit. Conway thinking about a move, but he goes off again, does Conway! Conway bounces through the gravel. And he's found himself in heaps of trouble again. He just needs to be careful not to rejoin into the path of other drivers. And that's a real terrible shame there for Conway. It's just been another dreadful day for him and for Real. And he's just waiting for traffic to go through ahead of him there. And he's behind Fabio Lima, but he's actually still in front of his teammate Dan Tixon. Ericsson running it in the race lead still. He's not made any mistakes so far. As we see Andre Lotterer under threat from Théo Pourchaire. As we see Dixon go around for a spin. He touches the wall. But he seems to have got away with that. It's a brilliant 360 spin. Sadly, it's not the correct championship to be doing Tokyo Drift. And Dixon going off again in the Real. And Marcus Ericsson is in the pits now from the race lead. But with the lead he's got over Luciano Becchetta, he should keep hold of that top spot. And should there be no problems in the pits, he'll be on his way to victory, providing no mechanical gremlins or any mistakes from the Swede. Hartley running in P3 as Ericsson leaves the pits. Just under 10 seconds clear of Becchetta as he came out. But it's more than enough. So as they come through, there's the LaRousse behind the Coloni. This is the battle for P11 between Alguersuari and Isla. And there's a yellow flag. And I think that's for the Force India. Jerome D'Ambrosio has retired. Out of the race goes the Belgian. Now, what's the problem there for D'Ambrosio? Slowed with a problem. No points for Force India. D'Ambrosio is out. It's back to the drawing board for Ed Spencer's team. When it looked so good to see both of the cars in the points. And they're going to get nothing. There's Hartley running in P3. He's hoping that no mechanical gremlins curtail his podium hopes. He won't want to be sitting too comfortably because he's got Oliver Rowland closing down. And the battle between Alguersuari and Ilott has now become a battle for the final championship point. The lead that Ericsson has over Becchetta is 8.5 seconds. 14 laps to go. Hartley 9 seconds behind Becchetta. Rowland is 4th. McNish is 5th. Jake Dennis and Andre Lotterer in 6th and 7th for Andrea Moda. That will please team boss Lucy Bolwood. Théo Pourchaire in 8th. That will be Dan's Viant's best result of the season so far. Jake Sanson will be pleased with that as well. Takuma Sato for Dome is 9th. That'll be good enough for a couple of points for David Yunt's team. Jaime Alguersuari in the final points paying position for Gemma Dixon's Coloni team. Outside the points we've got Callum Ilott, Tatiana Calderon, Fabio Lima, Valentina Rossi, Mike Conway, Dan Tixon and Lucas Di Grassi is running in 17th, and we've seen a battle between the Dans Vion and the Carlin. And that's between Valentina Rossi and Conway. As we see Ericsson continuing on And that's an overtake there. Potentially, that was Callum Ilott trying to get through on Alguersuari. Didn't quite come off in the end. Oh, that's a problem for the Carlin! Becchetta's got a problem! Luciano Becchetta is on fire! When it looked so good for Perry Brown. Oh, how cruel does it need to be for him? He was running excellent up until that point. Pulls off the track. It's the end of the road for Luciano Becchetta. He is gone from this race. Brendan Hartley goes up to second, and Oliver Rowland, on his debut in this championship, is in third place. What rotten luck for Carlin. Fabio Lima is still going. He'll go up into 12th position. Becchetta deserves so much more from this race, there's no question. But now Ericsson will just have to hope that nothing strikes him. The battle for second place is hotting up because Oliver Rowland is closing in on Brendan Hartley now. And the gap is less than 2 seconds. So they come through Sunset once more, which has caught out a number of drivers. Teo Pourchaire up to 7th place in the Duns Fion. It could be even better because he's right up behind Andre Lotterer. As we see Jake Dennis go for a move on Alan McNish. He won't want to throw anything away. And now we see Marcus Ericsson coming up to lap what looks like Valentino Rossi. And Calderon is off again at Barbecue. What is going on with MasterCard Lola today? Calderon is almost stuck there. And she just can't keep the car on the circuit. It's almost like the gravel traps are becoming a magnet to these drivers. And Calderon is one of those that just can't leave the gravel trap alone. Will she get out of there, or is that it? Well, she's behind Valentina Rossi. She's down a lap. And I think she may be given a suspended back of the grid penalty like we've seen a couple of drivers get in this race. She's back on track now. But she'll be wanting to see the checker flag. And yeah, it's a suspended back of the grid penalty for Tatiana Calderon. So if she does that again, it will be a back of the grid drop for the next race that precedes the next infringement she does of it. And now we ride on board with Oliver Rowland, right behind the Pacific of Brendan Hartley now. This could get really, really tasty here between the Pacific and the Sax Speed. Sax Speed haven't had too much to smile about this season, in all honesty, but they will love to get a podium out of this. Now, so far this season, Sax Speed have had a couple of podiums, as we said, in the first couple of rounds. And I think there was an overtake there from Pourchaire on Lotterer, and that's Ilott off the track. And he's hit the barrier so hard, but remarkably, he's able to continue. How on earth he survived that, I do not know. He just lost the back end into the S's, and Ilott is into the barrier, but remarkably, is able to keep going. He rejoins in 10th ahead of Fabio Lima, but Ilott will not want to make any more mistakes from here on in. Back to what I was saying about Sax Speed, they've not scored in the last couple of races. They could do with some redemption here and get a podium out of it. They know that Lucas Di Grassi is not going to get anything out of this. Just got to hope that Oliver Rowland just keep his car on the circuit. He tries to make a move on Brendan Hartley into Sunset. Doesn't quite come off. And now they're coming out of Clubhouse and into the S's once more. And the Sax Speed is behind the Pacific. Into Luke Up. I doubt we've seen the last of all the drama here. There's 9 laps to go in this race. Goodness knows what can happen between the present moment and the checkered flag. Marcus Ericsson, in your picture from the rear wing angle, continues to lead. The gap is nearly half a minute over him and Brendan Hartley as Alguersuari locks up into Luke in 9th position but gets away with it. Going back to saying about Pourchaire, he got in front of Lotterer. I think he did that into Luke. Up to 6th position goes the Frenchman, having a spellbinding race today. Absolutely on form. And that might not be the end of it. 4 seconds behind McNish as Ericsson's just lapped the Real of Mike Conway. The next man ahead of him is Fabio Lima in the Carlin. There he is, look, not too far up ahead. And Alguersuari, he touched the curb there into Barbecue, but doesn't spin round like we've seen a number of drivers do. Coloni need some points after a difficult couple of rounds. 8th in the team standings. And now Brendan Hartley under threat from Oliver Rowan once again. Now Sax Speed, who are at the helms of Mike Smith. Lucas Di Grassi, who was Sam Bird, who was dropped for this round in favour of Oliver Rowan. It's proven to be a good decision so far, but could he get even better? Rowland, desperate to get that second place, but he can't risk too much. The team really need these points. It really could come crucial at the end of the season. Could Zaxby be in the frame to get promoted to League One for next season? It's early days still, of course, but you won't want to be too far behind going into the final set of races and as the season closes. And there is Marcus Ericsson just going over the line. And Tixon, who locks up into Luke Hopp, who's had a race to forget so far, but at least he'll get to the end. Get his first finish. He failed to finish last time out in Fuji in his first attempt. He's running in 16th and last place right now. He's up behind Lucas Di Grassi. As we see Marcus Ericsson behind Fabio Lima, trying to lap him. And he'll get up the inside into Luke Up. And through he goes, no problem. Now Lima can just concentrate on fending off Mike Conway. That could be a battle for the final point later on if anything happens to those up front, including this man. Not that I'm trying to jinx anything, of course, but from what we've seen so far today, you really never know. Jake Dennis is in front of Alan McNish for your information. He's in 4th place. He's just lapping what looks like Valentino Rossi. It might have been Dan Tixon actually thinking of it. And there is Calderon. She could have been leading this race. Had it not been for her errors during the course of today, she's running in 14th position. She's got Brendan Hartley and Oliver Rowland closing on her. She will not want to get involved in that. As we see Ericsson nearly making a mistake through the S's, but getting away with it. Making his way through Luke Ott once more. And Oliver Rowland going for it again on Hartley. He cannot make the move stick at the moment. Out of Clubhouse they come. As they come through the S's, Ericsson will complete his 49th lap. 5 more to go for his second win in the Grand Prix World Series. And as it stands, look at how the Drivers' Championship is looking. I think Brendan Hartley will stay in the lead should he keep hold of his second place here. Calderon will be down to third place. Thankfully for her, Kamiya Sato and Jack Aiken and Lucas Di Grassi are not going to be scoring big. Well, Kamiya Sato has already retired, Jack Aiken's already retired, and Lucas Di Grassi is down in 15th position. So she won't be dropping down the order dramatically. She'll only lose one position. It'll be the first time she will not be scoring points this season. She only has herself to blame on that front. We've seen Hartley under threat from Rowland once more. Rowland will be desperate to snatch that position away from him. He's on the fresher tyres, but he's finding it difficult to overtake on this circuit. So out they come towards Lukot once more. Does he go for it into the left-hander? The answer is no. Now we're seeing Calderon a little too deep on her approach to Crocodile. I can tell you that Porsche is in front of Alan McNish. McNish is carrying a problem, to be honest with you. We want to go to McNish to see what's happening because he's dropping down the order like a fly. Lotta has got through, Takuma Sato has got through, Jaime Alguersuari has got through, and shortly it'll be Kalamaila, and that's why McNish is off the track after a mistake. And it looks like he's gone off at the S's. Ram Racing could well be coming out of it with no points. And he's trying to get back on the circuit. So Fabio Lima will go through up into the points. And Mike Conway gets through as well. McNish rejoins in 12th place. And Ericsson trying to position the car correctly through Crocodile, through Cheetah, and now Inqui. Just 3 laps to go. 3 more laps and he's home and dry. Marcus Ericsson, Indy 500 winner of 2022. Go up into second place as it stands, but this battle for second place could change that. And we are seeing a battle for the final point now between Fabio Lima in the Carlin and Mike Conway in the Real. So the 2 coming through. Hartley and Rowland once more. Conway going for the move on Fabio Lima, but can't make the move stick. Down the back straight they come. And Dan Tixon line up a move on Lucas Di Grassi. This is for 15th position. The last 2 positions of all the runners. There's Rowland stuck behind Hartley still. Hartley doing a tremendous job holding him off. Marcus Ericsson's lead is over 35 seconds now over these 2. And Ericsson will be coming up to lap Kyalami Ilott very shortly. Ilott, who is running in 9th position currently. Ilott, who's yet to score a point so far this campaign, is running in 9th position now. And Fabio Lima, who's yet to score a point so far. He's already picked up a point, as Fabio Lima, in Zental, but he'll be picking up his second one. Should he keep hold of that last point here. And Hartley doing his best still to hold off Rowland and doing a superlative job. And we are seeing Dan Tixon and Lucas Di Grassi almost coming together, they're going away with it. Valentino Rossi on course for his best result of the season so far. No points still at the moment for Valentino. It'll be his equal best result, actually, because he picks up a 13th position in Sepang. But nevertheless, it's still a reasonable drive. And Marcus Ericsson has started the final up of the race now. And what a convincing performance it's been from him. Well deserved, it has to be said. He's made no mistakes from here on in. And there he is, though. He's coming up to lap Kyalami, although I think he's going to run out of time to do that. But that won't matter for him. He just wants to bring that car home and get the 25 points. As well as the point for the fastest lap. Through Lucott for the last time. The Von Mattel team are out in the pit wall. Hugh and Gale will be very pleased with this. They picked up their first win in Zenzel a couple of rounds ago. And they're about to further cement their chances in the race for promotion. Marcus Ericsson coming round the last corner. And he's going to take victory in South Africa in Kyalami. Marcus Ericsson wins the Kyalami Grand Prix in Lead 2. A convincing and dominant drive. Fabio Lima holds off Mike Conway for the final point. We'll just stay with Brendan Hartley and Oliver Rowland. These two are about to come home in second and third places. What a drive from Brendan Hartley again in Kyalami. And he's going to bring some much needed points for Pacific. They go back into the lead of the team's championship after this result. I think he goes back into the lead, but it'll be very close between them and Von Mattel. Oliver Rowland on debut in third place for Zaxby. Jake Dennis fourth. Lucas Grassi just hold off Dan Titsum at the end. But look at Teo Pourchaire for Dams Vion. Their best result of the season so far. Jake Sanson is ecstatic. Andre Lotterer in 6th place. 2 Andrea Moders in the points. Takuma Sato in 7th. Jaime Alguersuari in 8th. Callum Ilott, the last of the lead lap drivers, in 9th place. A couple of points for him and for LaRose. But there is your race winner. It is Marcus Ericsson for Von Mattel in Kyalami. Brendan Hartley coming home in 2nd place, albeit over half a minute behind, with Oliver Rowland in 3rd place. Jake Dennis in 4th, ahead of Teo Pourchaire, arguably the driver of the day, in 5th. Andre Lotterer 6th, Takuma Sato in 7th, with Jaime Alguersuari in 8th position, with Callum Ilott and Fabio Lima running out the top 10. Mike Conway in 11th for Real. Elimination a disappointing 12th. Valentino Rossi equaling his best result in 13th place. Tatiana Calderon, Lucas Di Grassi and Dan Titson are the rest of the finishers. Luciano Picasso retired sadly. Jerome D'Ambrosio did as well. Alexander Rossi, Mick Schumacher, Gary Paffett, Pascal Verline, Jet Aiken, Kamiya Sato, Christian Lundgaard and Sergio Sette Camera were the drivers that did not finish the race. Marcus Ericsson got the point for the fastest lap. The pole position point went to his Von Mattel teammate Pascal Verline. It's been a very interesting first race of the day in the Grand Prix World Series. League 2 has put on a belter. Can League 1 live up to that? Stay tuned and find out as we look on the championship standings courtesy of Topher Smith.
A fine win there by Marcus Ericsson, who becomes the first driver this season to take 2 Grand Prix victories. A fantastic job for the Swede there. And as far as the championship standings are concerned, Brendan Hartley does hold on to the lead on 69 points. But Marcus Ericsson's second win of the season, bringing him within 2 points of the New Zealander. It's getting very close between those two, and they formed a little bit of a breakaway group ahead of Tatiana Calderon, who lies 3rd on 43 points. Kimiya Sato still in 4th in the dome on 39 points. Andre Lotterer is 5th on 34, ahead of Jack Aitken on 32. Sato and Di Grassi are equal on 30 points for 7th and 8th, ahead of Jake Dennis and Alexander Rossi, who rounds out the top 10 on 21 points. Now looking at the teams, Von Mattel, their second win of the season puts them into the lead, but only 1 point ahead of Pacific Grand Prix, who's a further 8 ahead of Dome. It's really close at the top still after the first 5 rounds of the championship. Andrea Moda still within touching distance on 57, while Mastercard Lola and Zach Speed are on 53 each. Force India on 42 ahead of Cloney, LaRousse and Ram Racing, who despite not scoring today, are still in the top 10 in the standings on 13 points. But now we look ahead to League One, and heading into round 5 at Kyalami, it is Scott Dixon who holds on to the lead of the championship on 47 points, 10 ahead of Helio Castro Neves on 37. Nick de Vries, one of our latest race winners, is on 36 ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa, 2 Minardis in the top 4 there. Romain Grosjean, consistent point scoring, puts him 5th ahead of Sebastian Buemi and Danny Juncadella, only 1 point covering those 4 drivers there, da Costa down to Juncadella. And Pato Ward and De Resta also there, a couple of points behind that group. And Stoffel Van Dorn in 10th on 21 as well. This is looking to be highly competitive in League One, and we could see a huge shake-up in the order today, depending on how this race in Kyalami goes. And in the team standings heading into this one, Leighton House leads the way on 82 points, 10 ahead of Minardi on 72, with Simtek a further 4 behind. Those 3 a little bit ahead of Arrows in 4th at the moment, who's a little bit on their own there as they lie 15 points ahead of Super Aguri, who are in 5th on 38. Mana is 6th on 36, with Onyx Grand Prix in 7th on 19, and then we have BAR, Prost and HRT rounding out the top 10. HRT on 6 points at the moment. They will want to add to that today. And before we take you through the grids for the League One race, a few driver changes to take you through. The first of which is at the Onyx team, and Kazuki Nakajima has had his patience run out with Ryan Ferris, and he's been replaced for this round by Daniel Kvyat, the Russian driver racing under an Italian licence. Will get his return to the Grand Prix World Series and will look to make the most of this opportunity to prove that he can run in that seat full time. And Leighton House, a little bit of driver confusion within this one, but we finally have a solution. Chris Cavaney sort of wondering what to do with his drivers because he's got 3 competitive drivers on his books. One of them already a race winner this season, 2 of them fighting for the championship as well. Will Power has returned from his race ban, but as it has been decided after a poll amongst the team managers that the 2 Leighton House drivers will indeed be Will Power and Sebastian Buemi. So Helio Castro Neves, who is 2nd in the championship, will not be racing today. And we will have to watch with great interest to see what Chris Cavaney decides to do with his drivers across the course of the rest of the season. Will it be sticking with Will Power and Sebastian Buemi, or will he give Castro Neves another chance further on down the line? This will be a fascinating story to follow. And finally, at the Mana team, we have a double change. Alex Johnston has decided he's had enough of both of his drivers, Marino Sato and Juan Manuel Correa, so he's replaced them both. Marino Sato's seat has been taken by the Brazilian driver Felipe Nasr, while Juan Manuel Correa's seat will be taken by Naoki Yamamoto. So an all-new driver lineup at Midland Racing. Will they bring them better results and better fortune? We will keep an eye to see whether they can maybe get some points on the board with Nasr and Yamamoto. Looking at the grid, it is Scott Dixon, our reigning champion and championship leader, who has put his Simtek onto pole position 0.3 of a second ahead of Sebastian Buemi, with Will Power on his return putting it 3rd on the grid. A fine result from him, and he will look to move forward past his teammate and past his IndyCar rival as well. Nick de Vries, 4th in the Minardi, our latest race winner, ahead of an all-French row 3 in Sebastian Bourdais and Romain Grosjean. Alex Palou, a fine result in the AGS in 7th, ahead of Nicolas Latifi, who also returns from a race ban and will be 8th. A great result there. The Canadian showing what he's worth in the Grand Prix World Series, and that will please Will Knight to no end. Naoki Yamamoto on his debut, 9th. Alex Johnston surely will be pleased with the result there. A massive improvement on what he's achieved so far this season. And Kamui Kobayashi, 10th in the Mana, but a second away from Dixon's benchmark. Sam Hall, I think, will be asking some questions of his drivers after that one. Danny Juncadella will be the lead Arrows today. Arrows not having their best qualifying results of the season so far, in 11th and 13th, with Daniel Kvyat in the Onyx in between them in 12th on his return to the Grand Prix World Series. Roy Nassanu doing a fine job for Forti Corti in 14th, ahead of Paul Di Resta and Artem Markelov for 15th and 16th. Robin Freins, 17th in the Super Aguri, ahead of Colton Herter, Adrian Suttel and Marco Wittmann in the Prost. That will be your top 20. In 21st, Sean Galale in the BAR, ahead of the returning Felipe Nasr. He's raced before for Prost. He now returns for Midland. 23rd is Mahevi Raghunathan. And then 3 back at the grid penalties from the last race in Fuji. Alex Lynn in the HRT, Antonio Felix da Costa in the Minardi, and Stoffel Van Dorn in the Simtek. They will all move forward surely. We'll keep an eye on their progress as the race goes on. Well, we're all excited for this one. We can't wait for the lights to go out. So we will keep you waiting no more as we return to Tom Cairns.
A 10th career pole in the Grand Prix World Series for Scott Dixon. Can he convert it into his second win of the campaign? The 5 red lights are coming on ahead of the 26 drivers in League 1 in Kyalami. It's lights out and away we go. Dixon gets off to a very good start. Watch out for Sebastian Buemi alongside in the late house, and also Will Power, who's trying to get through, and Power is ahead of Buemi into second place. So Dixon leads, Power is second. Now it's the second Leighton House, Sebastian Buemi in third position. Nick de Vries, the race winner of Fuji, last time out is in fourth. Sebastian Bourdais in the Onyx is fifth, ahead of Nicolas Latifi, Romain Grosjean, Alex Palou. Naoki Yamamoto on his Grand Prix World Series debut is in ninth position, and in 10th is the Arrows of Danny Junkadea. We're right on board with Nick de Vries, who's behind the 2 Leighton House cars. The first ahead of him is third place man Sebastian Buemi, as Dixon makes his way through the S's for the first time, no problem. And Dixon, who returned to the podium last time out in Fuji, be hoping to go better here and get his second win of the campaign and get Simtek's season back on track. His teammate Stoffel Van Dorn is outside the top 15 at the moment. He didn't have anywhere near as good of a qualifying session as Dixon did. But so far, so good for team manager Scott Woodwis and for Chris Cavani as well, with his cars second and third in the Leighton Houses. As they come round to complete the first lap, and it's Dixon in the race lead by over a second. Long way to go in this race. We saw what happened in League 2 earlier on. What is League 1 going to deliver here in Kyalami, just outside the city of Johannesburg in South Africa? Power and Buemi. As we see Kamui Kobayashi in the manor, sandwiched in between 2 Arrows, a team of which he raced for in the last couple of seasons, but is now a manor driver these days. Alex Lynn running in 24th position. Behind Lynn is the Midland of Felipe Nasr, and in 26th and last place is the 40 of Mahevi Raghunathan. Felipe Nasr, one of those returning to the Grand Prix World Series. He did a couple of races for Prost last season. I think someone's carrying a problem on the exit of Lucop. I can't quite tell who that is. As the field continues to filter rounds Ingui. The last corner of this circuit, Dixon with a new fast lap, 1 minute 21.9. And given the pace we've seen from him in qualifying and in the race so far, pulling away from the rest of the pack, it has to be said, I think it's going to be very difficult for anyone to beat that time now. So it could well be all but assured for Scott Dixon. It's quicker than the fastest lap we saw from Marcus Ericsson in the League 2 race earlier on. And there's a problem for Artem Markelov in the Prost. It's an early retirement for him. So out he goes on lap 3 of the race. So Markelov, who brought the car home in 7th place in Fuji to score his first points of the campaign, is not going to score any points here this time around. He's the first retirement, but I doubt that will be the last, given how far we have got to go in this race. Dixon to lead, or continuing to lead out in front. And I think the gap is going to be up to something like 4 seconds. 3.2 in the last sector. So he crosses over the line once more. 3.3 seconds it is between him and Sebastian Buemi. And there's another engine problem. That's the AGS of Alex Palou. AGS are in desperate need of some points. They are really, really struggling so far this season. And the last thing they want is relegation. Really staring into their faces here. They're not having a good time of it. as Alex Palou is becoming a smokescreen, becoming difficult for the drivers to get round. And he's been hit by the arrows. And he goes off the circuit eventually, although not how he would have liked to have been. Was he hit by the arrows of Danny Yunkandaya approaching the corner? He was, but I think Palou should have got off sooner. That might get looked at by the stewards, but I would say that leans more towards in Palou's part rather than Yunkandaya's. Palou retires from the Kyalami Grand Prix. And are the stewards going to post their verdicts on what they've seen on that? Oh, that's Ragunathan running over the coast. And Yunkandaya has actually been given a race ban and a disqualification. I'm actually quite surprised of that because it looked like Palou was at fault for the collision, but that's not what the stewards thought. They thought Yunkandaya was at fault for it. So Yunkandaya, subject to appeal, is not only disqualified from this race, but he's also banned for the next race in Istanbul next time out. Now, team manager Topher Smith, I can imagine, will want to appeal that, because it looked like to me that Palou should have got off the circuit sooner, given how much of the traffic he was holding up. Well, Ragunathan will be coming into the pits for a new nose cone. He was at the back anyway. Back towards the front. Willpower in third place, ahead of the Dutchman, Nick de Vries, Formula E champion of 2021. Trying to get past the IndyCar champion of 2022. Both of them race winners, of course. Willpower is back from a 2-race suspension, remember, in place of Helio Castroneves after Buemi. And there's another engine problem. That looks like Patro Ward is in trouble. So arrows are effectively out of the running here, because Yunkandaya is carrying a disqualification over him. And Ward has been hit from behind. Chaotic start here in Kyalami. I think it was Roy Nissany in the yellow liveried 40 that ran into him. Yeah, he got pushed off the circuit and he nearly took out the Onyx there of Danny Kvyat in front. Now we're going to see it again from Roy Nissany. In front of Nissany was Kvyat, who got through before Lukop, but he just didn't slow down in time. And I think that one is going to be more in Nissany's part because that looked more avoidable. O'Ward off the circuit now, but the engine has gone. I don't understand why he's trying to get out of it. The engine's already expired, Pato. You may as well get out of there. You're going no further. So that's the third driver out of the race already. I think Nissany will be in the pits at the end of the start. Oh, he may be hit with a penalty of some sort. It's not been the best of starts to 40 already in this race. Remember, in Zenzel, both drivers got hit with penalties for instances that the pair of them been involved in Zenzel, which saw them start from the back of the grid in Fuji. I'm not sure what O'Ward is playing at here. He's trying to get back onto the circuit, but the engine has already expired. And I've never seen this before, where a driver's trying to get back onto a circuit in the gravel chat with the engine already giving up the ghost. Well, all of this has promoted Yamamoto up to 8th place. Yunkandaya is 9th and carrying a disqualification over him, with Kamiri Kobayashi in 10th place in the manor. And O'Ward is finally being craned off, and that is him out of the Kyalami Grand Prix. And what is the penalty going to be for Roy Nissany? Because he was the one that ran into Pato O'Ward. And it's a 10-second time penalty and a back of the grid drop for the next race in Istanbul for the Israeli. So it's not a disqualification for Nissany. I'm actually quite surprised at that, because if Yunkandaya is going to get a disqualification for the incident he was involved with Alex Palou, I suppose I don't see what the difference really is there between the two. I think Nissany's was more avoidable, whereas Yunkandaya didn't really have anywhere to go. And now we're right on board with Antonio Felix Acosta battling with Marco Wittmann for 16th position. So So wherever Nissani will finish, 10 seconds will be applied to his time. And not for the first time this season, he'll start with a back-of-the-grid penalty. Lynn making a move up the inside. That is Stoffel van Dorn in front of him, who's running in 19th position. Dixon stroking along in the lead, over 5 seconds in front of the race winner in Zental, Sebastian Buemi. The top 3 have all won a race in League 1 this season. Dixon in Sepang, Buemi in Zental, De Vries in Fuji. The other driver in League 1 to have won a race this season will have been Antonio Felix da Costa, who's outside the top 15 at the moment. And we've seen a move there, or what looked like a move was about to happen from Nicolas Latifi, trying to get up the inside of Sebastian Bourdais. And we are seeing a battle between Felipe Nasr, and behind him is Sean Galeal, who is back from a one-race ban, remember, after his shenanigans in Zental, I believe. Galeal, who was in... No, it was Latifi, actually, who was involved in the collision with Alex Palou in Zental. My apologies, I have to take my word back about Sean Galeal. But it's not been a good race so far for Galeal. I'll tell you one driver who is having a great start to his debut is Naoki Yamamoto, who is one of those being drafted in for Alex Johnston's Midland team after Midland parted ways with Marino Sato and Juan Manuel Correa. Will Power in 4th position ahead of Sebastian Bourdais. Leighton House having a really strong showing here. They were hit with problems in the race, most particularly for Helio Castroneves, who got hit twice and lost his rear wing in Fuji, hence why he finished towards the back of the pack, and Buemi scraping through to finish in the points after suffering electrical problems, which dropped him back a bit, but was able to come back into the points. And when things aren't going your way, the emphasis of a top quality racing driver is never giving up and actually competing well when things aren't going for you. And Sebastian Buemi, as far as the Grand Prix World Series is concerned, is one of those that tick that particular box. And there he is, in 2nd place. The man who's won at Imola in Season 2 for BAR. Also a race winner this season in Zental for Leighton House. He was initially intended as a replacement for the suspended Will Power, but given his performances in those 2 races, after a poll was put out by the team manager Chris Cavani, he was struggling to decide who to pick between the 3. And given the poll had ended in the way it did, he ultimately went with Power and Buemi. Both drivers doing a sensational job so far. There's Dixon running in 1st position, dominating up front, 7 seconds clear already as we approach the end of lap 10. As we see a lock-up from Marco Wittmann in front of Antonio Felix da Costa, getting away with it. There are 2 Super Aguris in front there as well. Paul di Resta and Robin Freins, the reigning team's champions, haven't been at it in the last couple of races, or the last few it has to be said. They were poor in Zental, they were poor in Fuji, and they haven't had the best of qualifying sessions either in Kyalami. Now Sebastian Buemi, who may be 7 seconds behind, but he's over 4 seconds in front of Nick De Vries, who's beginning to pull away from Will Power at the moment. So we're not seeing too much battling up front. It's more like further down the field we are seeing. And there's a yellow flag there. Who's that? Someone had an off at Barbecue Bend. And it's Junker Daya who's had a spin. So he hasn't quite gone into the gravel, but he's facing the oncoming traffic. So he's caught the curb, he spins round in front of the manor of Kamui Kobayashi. He's pointing the wrong way, but he's not quite in the gravel trap. But he's going to fall to the back of the pack here. Is the Spaniard. Gets the car turned round and gets going again. No penalty should be given, really. All he was doing is getting the car turned around and pointing the right way. Is Yonkindea, his teammate, Pato Award, is already out of the race. So for Topher Smith, this race is already going from bad to worse for him. And in terms of the back of the grid penalty, I think that's what he'll most likely appeal against. Because there's no way that Yonkindea can get back into the points unless an absolute catastrophe happens to a significant number of drivers in this one. And there's a long way to go at the moment. We saw what happened in League 2. You never know what can happen here as well. The two Super Agrees now 13th and 14th. Danny Kafia up into the points now for Onyx. In 10th place, his teammate Sebastian Bourdais in 5th position. Roman Grosjean under threat from Naoki Yamamoto, if I can get my words out. It's been a spirited drive from the Japanese pilot so far. And we're not too far away from pit stops at the moment. We're on lap 12. It was around about lap 13 when we saw the two stoppers begin to come in for fuel and tyres. I wonder what strategy Dixon is doing. There's an engine problem. That will be Alex Lynn, who's having a rotten season so far and is going to be out again in the Super Aguri. And looking at his record so far this season, it looks like Alex Lynn, I think this is it's his third retirement of the campaign, his fourth without points. And he pulls off the track with an engine problem. At least he hasn't become a smokescreen to the drivers. But Lynn's race goes no further. He is the next driver to retire from the race. Saw some drivers coming in for pit stops, I believe, and it was some of them towards the back of the pack coming in. Didn't quite see it. And Van Dorn is trying to make a move on the sole surviving Aegis of Colton Herter. Robin Frines was the one that came into the pits, for your information, and that was for a scheduled stop. So he's looking to complete an undercut on a number of the drivers. Dixon's lead is 9 seconds over the rest. And Van Dorn making a move up the inside of the AGS. Is the move completed? The answer is yes. So that's a change of position. Van Dorn getting past the AGS there into Lukop of Colton Herter. AGS in need of a strong result here. They haven't had too much to celebrate this season. They go into this round with 5 points. They picked up an 8th place finish last time out in Fuji, but they're still sitting in the relegation zone at the moment. 40 and Midland are also in there. It's all quite tight at the moment. And that's Dixon! Dixon, the race is off! He's out! Dixon is out at the Kyalami Grand Prix! What a terrible mistake from the Kiwi! The 6-time IndyCar champion has trashed out at the S's! What an unbelievable development! Sebastian Buemi leads! Nick De Vries is up to 2nd! And Will Power is up to 3rd! 2 Leightonhouses in the podium places! What a costly error from Scott Dixon of all people! Not a mechanical failure, driver error! That is a shocker! That's one of the shocks of the season so far. And there's a problem for Agent Susel. 2 HRTs are going to be out of it already. And we're only on lap 14. It really is kicking off here in Kyalami. Would you believe it? And Lane almost becoming a smoke screen there. Not Outson, sorry. Adrian Sutil it is. Adrian Sutil has retired from the Kyalami Grand Prix in League One. John Monroe leaving with no points yet again. They went into this round above the relegation zone, but only on countback. And with Midland doing rather well at the moment. I mean, Naoki Yamamoto has come into the pits for fuel and tyres. And if they get into the points and get a good haul of points, that could push HRT into the drop zone. And there's Kvyat spinning into the gravel trap. And doing what the likes of Tatiana Calderon, Mike Conway and co had been doing. So his debut was looking good up until this point. Danny Kvyat spinning into the gravel trap. Now, will he get back out of it, or is it curtains for him? He tries to get out of there. And he rejoins in 18th position. Does the former Toro Rosso and AlphaTauri driver. And Red Bull, of course. And Will Power running in P3. When it was all looking good. And that's Yamamoto spinning off the track. He's just pitted, remember. He avoids the wall. But that loses him a chance of a points finish with spins like that. It was all looking good for those who have been drafted in last minute by their team managers, but they're beginning to fall all over the place. Yamamoto spins off. Tries to get back onto the circuit, but isn't quite doing so at the moment. He really is struggling. This isn't going to please Alex Johnston, who's just changed both of his drivers for this round. And he's only allowed one more driver between now and the rest of the season. Van Don pits in. He's Scott Woodward's only hope now of salvaging anything from this race. Dixon, remember, holds the point for the fastest lap, which I don't think is going to be beaten. And he will not have that pole position taken away from him because that's completely his. So Dixon will come away with 2 points, realistically, but that's it. Van Dorn outside the points in the moment and just pitted. And that's thrown the race wide open now, most certainly. And it's played into the hands of Leighton House, who came into this round as leaders, as we see a move from what looks like Antonio Felix da Costa getting past Paul Di Resta, go up into 9th place on track. De Vries is in from 2nd place. That'll promote Will Power into 2nd. It's now a Leighton House 1 and 2. And Yamamoto goes off again, this time at Barbecue. Yamamoto is off again in the Midlands. He's just ahead of the leader as well. That was Sebastian Buemi. But at least Buemi won't have to worry about that now. Yamamoto off once more. Now, can he get out of the garbage trap? No problem. He'll just have to wait for a car or two to go through. He doesn't rejoin into the path of them. And there they are. Gets back on the circuit. He's already a lap down, is Yamamoto. Will Power in 2nd place. Sebastian Bourdais in 3rd position in the Onyx. Nicholas Latifi in 4th for BAR. Then it's Roman Grosjean and Kamui Kobayashi, the 2 manners, in 5th and 6th. Nick De Vries is 7th after his pit stop. And it's Ryan Asani in the 40 with a 10-second time penalty hanging over him in 8th. Antonio Felix da Costa in 9th in the 2nd Minardi, and in 10th position is Paul Di Resta. Bear in mind, some drivers have pitted already first time around. If they've already pitted, they'll be in the pits again for their second stops later on. Some drivers are looking to do the one stop here. And there is Paul Di Resta, the Scot, running in P10. His best result in Formula 1 being a 4th place finish in Singapore 2012 and Bahrain 2013. Of course, he's been involved in punditry. And now we're seeing Marco Wittmann head for the pits in the Prost. And now we are seeing Grosjean go for a move on Nicholas Latifi into sunset. Here's Bourdais in P3. In the Onyx, just a second clear of Nicholas Latifi, who's been fighting it with Romain Grosjean. Buemi's margin over Will Power is 10 seconds. Power hasn't won this season yet, but he has won in the Grand Prix World Series before in Season 2. Now Will Power. Now they were in League 2 last season with Leighton House on route to promotion. And Will Power, who became the Drivers' Champion of League 2. As we see Jochen Deyer pull off with a problem, and Arrows' day ends on the sidelines after 18 laps of this race. 17 it will be for Jochen Deyer. What a miserable day for Topher Smith. I was going to say about Will Power, who's won 3 times last season. Round 6 where he had won. Round 6, which will have been in Chennai in India. The other rounds he had won were in Hockenheim and the season finale in Laguna Seca. 3 wins to his name in the Grand Prix World Series for Will Power. As we see Felipe Nasr getting up the inside of Colton Herta. So Felipe Nasr up to 11th position. Making his way through the field nicely. Bourdais in 3rd, Latifi 4th, Grosjean in 5th. You're looking at Bourdais in your picture. So they filter their way through sunset. And behind Grosjean is Yamamoto, who's a lap down. Buemi continuing to extend the lead, just as what Dixon was doing before he crashed out at the S's. And we are looking at the rear wing view. Just trying to tell who that is at the moment. As Buemi continues on through Ingui. And now we are seeing an overtake being done by the Minardi of Antonio Vizcacosta on Roy Nissany. Now, is Nissany carrying an issue? Because he allowed him through quite easily there. Yeah, I think Nissany's struggling actually, because that doesn't look like optimum pace is going through Crocodile. So I'd imagine he'll be in the pits in due course. That's the leader though. Buemi looking very, very strong again. Bourdais in P3 for Onyx. Now this season so far for the Onyx team, as we see Kobayashi get overtaken by De Vries, and I think he may well be carrying an issue, is Kobayashi, because we haven't seen too many overtakes being done there. So hopefully we'll find out more what's happened in relation to that. Onyx, whose best result this season has been 5th, courtesy of Kazuki Nakajima in Malaysia. And Kobayashi, who has dropped back from De Vries. I think we'll be coming in at the end of this lap for a pit stop. Oh no, maybe not. De Vries, I think, maybe just got a genuine overtake done on Kobayashi, so it was a good overtake from De Vries. It didn't look like Kobayashi had tried to fend that off too much. As they come through Barbecue, De Vries on form. He's already made a pit stop. Next man ahead of De Vries is Nicholas Latifi. There's Will Power. It might be Bewami actually, thinking of it. As we see Yamamoto trying to unlap himself from Nicholas Latifi. There is Midland under its guys there. That's the only livery they've got to choose from. Anyone that's in charge of the Midland team. They've been around only for 2006. Before the team was bought out by Spyker, the Dutch manufacturer. We see Bordeaux crossing over the line. Robin Fries locking up into the Lukop, just in front of Stoffel van Don in the Simtek. So as they come through, the Crocodile and through the right-hander of Cheetah before Inkwi. Sebastian Bourdais in third position. And Robin Fines under threat from Yamamoto. Colton Herter, who's under threat from the BAR of Sean Galeo. Galeo, who's trying to make a move, trying to make an impression here. And Bewami, the race leader, is in for his first pit stop at the end of lap 24. I think it's lap 24. And Will Power should go into the race lead. I think it's lap 23 actually. I think it is lap 23. So Power takes the lead of the race. I think that might be Bewami's only stop of the race as well. So I think both of the Leighton House drivers are looking to do the one stop here. So there is the Australian, Will Power, in the lead now. Bewami rejoins in 5th position behind Nicholas Latifi. He might need to make some overtakes to stay in contention for the win, but I want to just pick them off one by one. They are due into the pits very soon anyway, those lots, so Bewami won't need to worry about those too much. He had a big lead over his teammate Will Power. It was over 10 seconds before he came into the pits. And now we see Will Power once more. Come round to complete lap 24. Bourdais in 2nd place now. As he comes through Barbecue. And we see Kobayashi coming in from 7th place. His teammate Roman Grosjean is in P3 on track. Paul di Resta coming in for Super Aguri. Felipe Nasser will go through. Colton Herter will go through. Sean Galea will go through. Danica Fiat should go through. And Robin Fries should go through. Kobayashi might rejoin in front of Fiat if he's lucky. Yeah, Kobayashi gets out in front of Kvyat, so he's actually rejoining some clean air, has the Japanese. Galeo trying to get past Herter for P10 now. Power coming around the last corner. Bewami trying to lap Naoki Yamamoto. He gets through, no problem there. Going onto the pit straight. Buemi. Just want to be patient here, not rush it. Latifi knows that Buemi is a tough competitor to battle with. Felipe Nasr pits in for Midland for his only stop. Buemi trying to get through on Nicholas Latifi. He can't get past. Galeo is also in for BAR. Grosjean in third place. Can Buemi get through on Latifi this time? Into Lukop. He's up the inside now, and I think this is going to be a change for position. Buemi gets past the Canadian, and he goes up into fourth position on track. And it won't be too long before he gets onto the rear of the Frenchman, Romain Grosjean. The two who speak the same language, as does Sebastien Bourdais in second position. And Latifi looking up in front of Naoki Yamamoto. Buemi right behind Grosjean already now. It's really showing that the Leighton House is the superior machine throughout this season so far. Now there is one more round to go after this before the next upgrade window. Bourdais. See Yamamoto locking up behind Latifi. It didn't look like he ran into him, but it was close to a collision into Sunset. And Yamamoto was able to get this car slowed down in time. He hasn't really got anyone to fight with at the moment, so it's just a matter of getting to the end of the race as he's doing. Buemi lining up a move on Grosjean. Can he do it into Lukop? Just as he did on Latifi on the previous lap. Not this time around. He wasn't close enough there. And now we're seeing Robin Fines. I think he was looking to make a move on Danica Fiat in front. Colton Herter locking up at Sunset. At the halfway point in the race now, Will Power is leading. Bourdais pits in from P2. He should get out in front of Roy Nissani, I would have thought. If not, he'll get out in front of Colton Herter. Da Costa goes past. Nissani goes past. Unfortunately, no move there from Buemi at the moment on Grosjean. Buemi in third place. Getting held up behind Grosjean, but he won't need to worry because his teammate Will Power will be pitting in very shortly. And surely this is going to be an overtake for Buemi now to get past Romain Grosjean. Up the inside goes the Swiss, and he's through into second place on track. That was a crucial overtake there. And Buemi goes up another position. And that was a very smooth overtake from the 2015-16 Formula E champion. He gets through on Romain Grosjean. Uncertain what his IndyCar future is going to be. Buemi is through. And the car ahead of him there, that will be the 40 of Matafir Ragunathan, who's pitted twice in this race already. Grosjean pits in. Buemi goes through. Well, Buemi was already ahead of him. Latifi goes through. De Vries goes through. Is Grosjean going to get out in front of Bourdais? I highly doubt it. He'll rejoin behind him. Right on board with Stoffel van Dorn in 13th position in the Simtech. Herter is in. And Grosjean did rejoin behind Bourdais, for your information. Paul di Resta will go up a position as well. Colton Herter, is he going to rejoin in 15th position? Or is he going to rejoin a little bit further down? No, Felipe Nasser is in front of him now. And Galeo is through. So Herter rejoins in 17th place. Willpower pits in from the race lead. We should expect him to rejoin in front of Antonio Felix da Costa. Buemi will take back the race lead. Latifi comes in. So Nick de Vries will go up into second place on track. Willpower will rejoin in third place because Da Costa's coming in, as is Roy Nassani. Nick de Vries will have one more stop to do. There is the Dutchman. Won his first Grand Prix World Series race last time out in Fuji. You never know in terms of what could happen in this race. He may come away with 2 in a row. But the favourite at the moment has to be your current race leader, Sebastian Buemi. And now we're seeing Stoffel van Dorn trying to get past the Super Aguri of Robin Freins, who was one of the early stoppers. And he's in 8th position right now, so he's actually making the most of it, is the Dutchman. Van Dorn is already pitted as well. He's running in P9. And there is Buemi completing yet another lap. Over 5 seconds, or around about 5 seconds clear of Nick de Vries. And Willpower is over 7 seconds behind the Dutchman, so there'll be a bit of time before it gets to the rear of the Minardi. A 1-2 finish is looking ever so likely for Chris Cavani's team. He picks up a 1-2 with Buemi and Castroneves in Sentinel. They could well be on their way to doing it again here in Kyalami. Buemi coming up behind the 40 of Mahathir Raghunathan. Antonio Felix da Costa thinking about a move. That looks like Marco Wittmann is trying to get through, but he's almost running into the gravel trap there, but managed to keep it away from the gravel. Now we're seeing a replay again of Da Costa running wide and just avoiding the grass in time. Powering P3, closing in on De Vries. Buemi pulling away from the rest of the pack still. Buemi, who I believe is still stuck behind Mahathir Raghunathan. He is. He gets through on him at last, although Raghunathan isn't making it easy for him. Buemi gets through anyway. Nick de Vries will be happy to see that because he can close in a little bit on the Swiss driver. The gap is back down to 4.3 seconds. Van Dorn stuck behind the Super Aguri of Robin Freins still. Difficult to overtake round this Kyalami track, and Power is off! Gets back on the track. Well, he's a lucky man. Unlike Scott Dixon, who tried to recover by going off, but the one of the tyres came off the car and he went no further. Power was very lucky to keep going there. That will send shivers down Chris Cavani's spine. I'm sure that would have been an uncomfortable experience for him, as for Chris Cavani itself. Or himself, I should say. De Vries in second place. And coming in. He's got a loose wheel! He's got a loose wheel, Nick de Vries. And Nissani's off the track as well! Nissani spins around. And 40's race is going from bad to worse, and Nick de Vries' race is taking a turn for the worse. And Sani goes for a spin. He's able to rejoin, so... Oh, he's got the car spun round though, and I think he might have to let some of the traffic go through. And he's going to lose even more time. He's got that penalty anyway, as Nissani, but that spin there won't have done him any favours. De Vries is in for a pit stop there. And he's had to rejoin in 6th place, so that pit stop hasn't come at an ideal time really, or the most ideal time. I just hope they've put fuel in to get him to the end of the race. And Marco Wittmann under threat from the other Minardi of Antonio Felix da Costa. Van Dorn pits in the Simtek. Now Yamamoto locking up into Lukop, but getting away with it. That hands 2nd place to Will Power. And he can start closing in on his teammate Sebastian Buemi now. As it stands, with the team standings as it is, Lakenhouse are going to be running away with it. With Minardi running in 6th and 10th places. That'll give them 9 championship points. Lakenhouse are on course for 43. That gives a difference of 34 points. So the gap will be 44 points after this race. And with Simtek only picking up 2, courtesy of Dixon getting the pole position and fast start points, they'll at the moment remain in 3rd place. Robin Fryns coming in for a pit stop now. That gives Da Costa and Wittmann 8th and 9th places respectively. Now Fryns was one of the early 2 stoppers, and he made the strategy work. He's behind Van Dorn, and Van Dorn will have been able to get in front of him. So Van Dorn is completing an undercut on Robin Fryns. There's Colton Herter. Behind Sean Galeau. Up ahead of him is Felipe Nasr, who could well scrape a point out of this, if not more. As far as the Drivers' Championship is concerned, with Dixon not only picking up 2 points, Castroneves, who's currently not racing at the moment, as Colton Herter gets through almost on Sean Galeau. Nick De Vries, who's running in 6th position, if he was to stay in that place, he would move in front of Castroneves, with Buemi on course for victory, who go into the lead of the championship as Da Costa comes in for a pit stop. Power, who would finish in 2nd, will go in front. We'll move up a few positions in the championship table. He would still be behind Castroneves. And I think a number of team managers will be wanting Castroneves' services since he's not racing at the moment, but it's not their decision unless Chris Cavani allows them to have him on board. But he is their reserve driver after all. As we see Yamamoto coming in for a stop. It's been a difficult race for Yamamoto after that mistake he made. Bourdais goes through in 3rd position. Onyx in need of a podium, and it could be their first of the campaign. They went into this round 7th in the team standings, 17 behind Manor. We've got both cars in the points as we speak. Wittmann pitting in from 8th place. And that's a spin for Will Power. That's his 2nd mistake of the day. Not long after his first one, and he's at the same place again. And it looks like he's had a 360. Well, almost a 360. Gets the car back on the track. He's lost further ground, and it's a suspended back of the grid penalty for Will Power. So he's got something which other drivers have picked up as Wittmann rejoins in front of Roy Nissany in 15th position. That was crucial, actually. He got out in front of him because otherwise he'd been stuck behind him and losing time. He's behind Robin Friends now. And there's an off. Is that Van Don off? Couldn't quite tell. I think it is Van Don, who has gone off the circuit at sunset. And he's broken his front wing, has the Belgian. And that just sums up Syntek's day. Another day to forget for them. He's just waiting for the traffic to go through. Through goes Buemi. Van Don gets back on the circuit. And there's no chance of points for him now. And Wittmann just holding off Nissany at the moment. Could points be on the cards for Prost again? They've scored points in the last couple of rounds. They didn't score any in the first two. And Bourdais, who's running in P3, just avoids the curb and the grass. And thanks to Will Power's mistake, that's allowed him to close in a little bit. And the same for Grosjean, who's been on form in recent rounds as well. As are Manor, who are continuing to make their way up the table in the team standings. Grosjean in 4th, Kobayashi in 7th. And Felipe Nasr, after making his only stop of the race, he's running in P10 for Midland. Now, they'll still be rock bottom of the team's championship as it stands. But if Nasr can continue making his way up the order after the pit stops, who knows where he could end up. There's no chance of points for his teammate, Naoki Yamamoto, who's at the back anyway. But we'll move up a position, with Van Dorn needing to pit in for a new front wing. Right on board with Bourdais in 3rd place, with 17 laps to go. And De Vries getting through. That's a problem for Nicholas Latifi. That's a problem for the BAR, and he is out of the race. What a shame for the Canadian. More bad luck for team manager Will Knight. Well, BAR have been hit with reliability problems this season, here and there. And that's a golden opportunity to get a good haul of points. That has gone out of the window here. Now we are seeing Antonio Felix da Costa trying to get through on the 40 of Roy Nissany, who is carrying a penalty over him. Nasr up to 8th place in the Midlands. Sean Galeo in the BAR in 9th. And Colton Herter in the AGS in 10th. As we see Wittmann locking up into Lukop. Da Costa tried to have a go on Nissany at that same corner, but wasn't able to pull it off. The gap between Buemi and Power is nearly 19 seconds. Bourdais in P3. His teammate Danica Fiat just outside the points in 11th. Despite that spin he made at Barbecue. And now we're seeing Da Costa trying to get through again on Roy Nissany. As we see Bourdais coming towards Crocodile. Power in 2nd position, coming through the kink. And Da Costa making a move up the inside, or trying to. Wasn't able to go past that time around. And Bourdais, who's running in P3, not able. No, he's avoiding the gravel trap there. He's got to be careful because he's got Roman Grosjean closing in on him now. And Nick De Vries, who had to come in for that stop earlier than expected, is in 5th position. And Rhinasani continuing to frustrate DaCosta behind. It's been a difficult season so far for 40. Scraping relegation at the back end of last season. Dave Goddard continuing to keep the services of his two drivers, but with the way both of them have been performing, I can't imagine they'll be in those seats for too much longer. They really cannot afford relegation staring in their faces. So it may well be a change beckoning at the hands of team manager Dave Goddard. The bottom three teams at the end of the season will be relegated to League 2. Paving the way for those top three teams in League 2 to get promoted into the big time. Last season, Leighton House, Life and HRT got promoted, but Life folded from the Grand Prix World Series, so it was only Leighton House and HRT that got promoted. And that's a problem for Will Power. Loose wheel for the Leighton House. Now, can he get it back to the pits? He's got less than half a lap to do it. He'll hand second place to Sebastian Bourdais. That's a certainty. That's a problem for Chris Cavney. Now, can he get it back to the pits? Will Power, he should be able to. And yes, he does. Just a lucky, lucky escape. Bourdais will go through, Grosjean will go through, and De Vries will go through. And I think Kobayashi will go through as well. So Will Power will rejoin in 6th place behind the second of the Manners. Points down the drain a little bit there for Chris Cavney, but at least Will Power stays in the race. He's on a fresh set of tyres now as well, so he may try and go for a fastest lap if he's lucky. The battle for the bottom end of the points is hotting up there. We've got like 5 drivers from Felipe Nasr to Robin Fines fighting over 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. Marco Wittmann will be getting in on that on the outs very shortly. DaCosta's got through on Nissani at last into 14th position. Whilst Buemi, well, he's got a heap of traffic to get through with 12 laps remaining. But he's got a Niemann closest to him in second place, Sebastian Bourdais. Well, he won't be in second place for long because Sebastian Bourdais' engine has given up. Things needed to go right for team manager Ryan Ferris, and it hasn't done so here. Bourdais is out of the Kyalami Grand Prix. Romain Grosjean will go up into second place. Nick De Vries will go up into third. And Kamui Kobayashi will go up into 4th position. Drivers getting through on Bourdais, who retires once again. He failed to finish in Fuji. He failed to finish in Yongam. This is the 3rd non-finish for Bourdais. All the other times he's finished have been in the points, but not here. He is out. They'll promote his teammate Danny Kafia into the points. But that's little consolation for Ryan Ferris. He really needed a whole lot more than this. So all of this, as Kobayashi goes off the track and goes for a spin right in front of Will Power. Well, it was all looking good there for Sam Hall, but it got a bit too much for Kamui Kobayashi, who spins round and avoids the Leighton House of Will Power, who gets through. Up to 4th position. And Will Power getting through, no problem, just avoiding the Munner. Now, does Kobayashi get out of there? He does, in 5th place. Well, Will Power can set about going after Nick De Vries, who's 18 seconds up the road from him. And there's only 11 laps to go. So Will Power will just have to hope for misfortune of those ahead of him. Buemi looking good for his 2nd win of the season. His lead over second place Roman Grosjean is 28.5 seconds. That's about the equivalent of a pit stop, so if Buemi had issues and needed to come into the pits, he could still get back out in front of Grosjean. Now looking at Manor's form, they didn't score in the first couple of races, but they've really turned on the style. And they're about to do so again with 2nd and 5th, which would net them 28 championship points. Went into this round 36, and as it stands, they'll move in front of Super Aguri and Arrows into 4th place. And Willpower has picked up an issue. Or has he? I think he just locked up on into the Crocodile Bend. And that was a very weird way he went into that. I think he struggled to get the car slowed down. I think that was all it was. And yeah, it was very, very weird there from Willpower. He just got offline there, and I think he was afraid that he was going to completely overdo the right-hander of Crocodile. He still keeps hold of 4th place at least anyway. He's lost time in his quest to catch Nick de Vries. And Nissani locking up also into that same corner. As it stands with the time penalty, he wouldn't actually drop a position with Nissani because the next man behind him, his teammate Mahathir Raghunathan, is a lap down. Buemi coming towards the end of his 45th lap. 9 laps to go. It'll be a brilliant result for Chris Cavani and, of course, for Sam Holt. With 2nd and 5th. All the pit stops are more or less done now. Paul de Resta is in 6th place in the Super Aguri. As Danny Kvyat looks to try and make a move on Colton Herta, but he needs to be careful because he's got the likes of Robin Freins, Marco Wittmann, and Antonio Felix Costa closing in. Now, Sebastian Buemi may well be catching up to this, and there's a problem. It's at Nazar. It is! What a disaster for Alex Johnston! 8th position he was in, down the drain. When things had to go right, it needed to go here, and it didn't. Out of the race with a puncher, Nazar retires from the Kyalami Grand Prix. That promotes Colton Herta up to 8th, Danny Kvyat 9th, and Robin Freins into the points in 10th. That promotes Nissani up to 13th place as well. Raghunathan 14th, and oh, there's contact between de Vries and Grosjean is off the track. We're going to see a replay of it now. De Vries behind the Frenchman. And I think de Vries just simply locked up as he got alongside, went down the inside, but he almost like he didn't try and make the corner. He was focused more on Grosjean and tapped him off the circuit. Grosjean gets back on track in 3rd place, but I'd imagine there'll be a penalty coming. De Vries is his way after that. Is it going to be a 10-second time penalty? Yeah, it's a 10-second time penalty, and the back of the grid drop for the Dutchman. Now we'll see the gaps when they cross over the line. Kobayashi locks up into Lukop, but stays on the circuit. Now the gap between de Vries in 2nd and Grosjean in 3rd place, we'll find out round about now when Grosjean goes through the finish line. It's under 10 seconds, so Grosjean would still go back into 2nd place, but he needs to just keep the car on the circuit, unlike Raghunathan, who's crashed out at sunset. Yeah, just carried too much speed, bouncing over the gravel, and that's his day's work done. What a miserable season it's been for 40. And Raghunathan crashing into retirement. And that will promote Yamamoto, what's the 14th place? And Van Dorn up to 15th for Simtek. Buemi still in the race lead. Coming around the last corner now. And there's a queue of cars from Galeo in 7th to Nissani in 13th that Buemi will be coming across in a moment. And that's the middle of it there. Marco Wittmann trying to fend off Antonio Felix da Costa. Even as Nissani got in front of these lot, he would still drop back because of his time penalty. And that was for the collision with Patero Ward at Lucot. Got 7 laps remaining. It's been quite an action-packed one. Now, Grosjean's gap behind De Vries would only just be enough to keep him in second place, but he needs to catch up to him, really. As Sebastian Buemi continues on, Will Power is closing in behind Grosjean as well. And he's catching him like a rocket. And Da Costa getting held up behind Wittmann at the moment. I've lost track of how many retirements we've got in this race so far. I'm not sure if, well, we had 10 in the lead. Oh, that's enough! That's Wittmann! In the past! The pressure finally getting to him, and Wittmann goes off the track at sunset, just as Regunathan did, but luckily all 4 wheels are still on the wagon. Now, did Da Costa force Wittmann wide? No, I think Wittmann just lost it by himself. So Wittmann goes off. We'll rejoin behind Roy Nissany and Sebastian Buemi, who's just lapped him. And he'll rejoin in 13th. Nick De Vries in second place as we speak. Behind him there, that's the Midland of Naoki Yamamoto. In 14th place. Now, Wittmann is behind Nissany, but Nissany is still on the lead lap. So should Sebastian Buemi lap Nissany, that might put Wittmann back ahead of the 40 at the end of this race, although Wittmann is still having issues of his own as we speak. Doesn't look like he's going to come away with anything from this race. No points for the team after 2 consecutive races of scoring. And we've seen a change in position because Will Power has got in front of Romain Grosjean now. And I think Grosjean's got an issue because looking at his pace, as Colton Herta goes off the track, he's the latest. I cannot believe what I'm seeing. And it's Danny Kvyat this time, who's gone side by side with him. Has contact been made between the pair of them? No, Herta went off by himself. More misery for AGS. But I want to go to see Romain Grosjean because he's dropped behind Power, who is now in front of him. Is Grosjean carrying an issue? Or did he just simply make a mistake on the lap somewhere and Power got through ahead of him? If we knew that Power just simply got ahead of Grosjean via his own accord, then we would have seen it. But there he is, look. Power is in front of Grosjean. I don't think Grosjean is carrying an issue. I think it's just the fact he made a mistake somewhere. And Power is through into 3rd place. And what is also bad news for Grosjean is that De Vries' penalty is hardly going to become relevant because his gap is more than 10 seconds, which means he won't lose 2nd place. But if Will Power can keep up the pace, he might just sneak into 2nd place. Buemi's got 4 laps to go now. Looking good for the victory. But it's not over until the checker flag. Frines, who's running in 9th now, ahead of Da Costa. Kvyat moving up to 8th. Hertz rejoin in 13th place behind Wittmann after going off. Another chance of points down the drain for AGS. So as far as the bottom of the team's champ is concerned, Midland are not going to be scoring. Neither are AGS. Neither are 40. Neither are HRC. So Prost's reprieve there is that none of them are going to be scoring. But what is also bad news is that their rivals BAR just in front of them are going to be pulling further away, with Galeo currently in P7. DeFries second now. But Willpower is 10.7 seconds behind. So if Power can just close in by 8/10 or something like that, he'll go into second place after the penalty has been applied to Nick DeFries' time. There is Willpower in P3 in front of Grosjean now. And he's got the gap down to just under 10.3. DeFries crossing over the line. I think Willpower is going to get the gap down to under 10 seconds given the pace we are seeing from him. It's not there yet, but with 3 laps to go, it's looking increasingly likely that he's going to be in the runner-up spot and complete a Leighton-House 1-2 after all. And he's got it gapped. He's got the gap under it now. Willpower just needs to make no more mistakes from here on in. There is Buemi coming up behind Roy Nissani to lap. And there is the long queue of cars ahead of the Swiss. There's only 2 laps to go, so he doesn't actually need to be bothering with those. But he's got Nissani right in front of him, who will not want to get in his way. There he goes, through on the 40. Nissani goes down a lap. 10 seconds to be applied to his time as Yamamoto comes into the pits for a late pit stop. So his race has gone from bad to worse with a problem. Now is he going to lose? He's lost a position to Stoffel van Dorn. Is he the last driver, I wonder, out of all the drivers left in the race? I think he might well be. Is Naoki Yamamoto. He'll rejoin the race in 15th position. I think he is the last driver on the lead laps in the race, so at least he'll finish the race. All the drivers will now be classified as finishes because they've completed 90% of the race distance. Well, there is Nick DeFries in second place, looking good for a podium, but it's not going to be second place once the penalty has been applied. It is subject to appeal, of course, as was the back of the grid drop. In charge of the Minardi team is Giacomo Pagliaro. There's Stoffel van Dorn. What a day to forget for Simtech. They just want to put this race behind them and go again in Istanbul. Team manager Chris Cavney of the Leighton House team won't want the race to end too quickly. He is enjoying the life of being the team boss there. Buemi is very close to victory now. He's run about half a lap away. After Dixon's retirement, shock retirement it has to be said, Buemi took the lead and ran. To cement his place in the championship fight. Wouldn't have been saying at the start of the season. It wasn't even a full-time driver at the beginning of the campaign. Out of 3 starts this season, he's going to make it 2 wins. Sebastian Buemi exits the last corner and he's going to win the Kyalami Grand Prix. Another victory for Leighton House. Another victory for the Swiss. And it looks like Da Costa has slowed down on the last lap. Not sure what's happened. He stayed on the lead lap anyway. But I want to go to Nick DeFries, who's going to make it another podium for himself. Here he is, look. He comes to second place on track, but it'll be third place once Will Power has crossed over the line. Will Power will take second place from Nick de Vries. Leighton House 1 and 2 again, this time with Buemi and Power. Roman Grosjean 4th again for Mana. His teammate Kamui Kobayashi will be 5th. Naoki Yamamoto finishing his first race in the Grand Prix World Series in 15th and last position. Still prize money for Alex Johnston, but it's little consolation. Kobayashi will be 5th. Paul de Resta 6th. And then it's Sean Galeau, Danny Kvyat, Robin Frines, and Antonio Felix da Costa running out the point scorers, and all of those on the lead lap. Both cars in the points for Super Aguri. Well done to them. But there is your race winner. It is Sebastian Buemi for Leighton House here in Kyalami. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to team manager Chris Cavney. Will Power in second place. Nick de Vries down to third with his time penalty. Roman Grosjean and Kamui Kobayashi make it 2 minutes in the top 5. We had Paul de Resta, Sean Galeau, Danny Kvyat on his first appearance for the Onyx team is in 8th. Robin Frines and Antonio Felix da Costa running out the top 10. Renisani in P11, followed by Marco Wittmann, Colton Herter, Stoffel van Dorn and Naoki Yamamoto, the rest of the finishers. Matt Vinogradovin crashed out, Felipe Nasser, Sebastian Bourdais, Nicholas Latifi, Adrian Sutil also retired with mechanical failure. Scott Dixon crashed out, that's the headline story. Alex Lynn also retiring along with Pato Ward, Alex Palou, Artem Markolov and Danny Youngandeo with the rest of those that did not finish. Scott Dixon picked up the points for the fastest lap and also for pole position. It's been another thrilling race here in Kyalami. Brilliant couple of races here, and we look forward to what Istanbul has to offer. In terms of the championship, well, it's very much hotting up now with de Vries coming out in third place. He is now, to my understanding, he is the championship leader, unless Sebastian Buemi has something to say on that. His victory has actually moved him in front of Nick de Vries, and Sebastian Buemi can now call himself the championship leader, albeit by a single point over Nick de Vries.
Another 1-2 finish for the Leighton House team this season, and it puts them in a commanding position within the championship. First of all, let's have a look down the driver standings, and Sebastian Buemi moves to the top on 52 points, 1 ahead of Nick de Vries in the Minardi, and Scott Dixon, our reigning champion, moves down to third, but still 3 points behind. But how costly will that crash be today in the grander scheme of things within this series? Roman Grosjean, further consistent point scoring, keeps him 4th in the standings, ahead of Helio Castroneves, who has not raced today. He's down to 37 points. In 5th, ahead of Will Power, who picks up a further 18 for 36 points. Paul de Resta's on 33, ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa, Daniel Youngandeo and Pato O'Ward, both arrows, staying within the top 10 to keep them within touching distance. In the team standings, which is being dominated at the moment by Leighton House, 125 points after 5 rounds. Chris Cavney surely rubbing his hands together with glee at the prospect of his team walking all over the season. Minardi, 88 points, 18 ahead of Simtek in 3rd on 70, Mana on 58 ahead of Arrows on 53, and Super Aguri, our reigning teams champion, struggling a bit in 6th place on 48. They do have a podium this season, but still to get a first race win of Season 3. Maybe that will come later on in the season. Onyx in 7th on 23 ahead of BAR, Prost and HRT, failing to add to their points tally today. It is Leighton House who holds the impetus going into the next round at Istanbul Park. That is set to be another exciting event in the Grand Prix World Series. We can't wait until then, and we hope you will join us next time. Take care.